20-year-old student Jennifer Klein is suing her former friend, 24-year-old ironworker Michael Rosenquist, for wrecking her car and then giving false information. Jennifer says his actions got her in trouble with the police.
Yeah, this is case number 177 on the calendar in the matter of Klein versus Rosenquist. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats.
All right, the basic of this case has to do with the fact that Miss Klein says, Mr. Rosenquist, that you were driving her car. She was in the car with you at the time you were driving the car, and you hit another car. And then Miss Klein says that when you got out of the car, the driver of the other car and you supposedly exchanged information, or you gave the owner of that car your information.
That's correct.
Which Miss Klein says was false. As a result of that, she was hauled in by the police because the car is registered in her name and the owner had the license plate, and she got into some serious difficulty. So she's suing you for a whole bunch of things, including fixing her car, the other man's car, because she was originally going to be tried with hit and run. Is that right?
Yeah.
And your defense to the case is, if she didn't like the way I handle it, she should have taken care of it herself.
Well, if you're a driver, you know, you should, depending on what happened, you know, no matter what happened, I feel that she should
Just
give...
a second, I got a feeling this is going to be one of those. One of those slippery things where he's thinking as he's talking. So we're going to get a real kick out of this. Okay? So let's pay attention. This is going to be like Comedy Central. All right, Mr. Rosenquist, let's start again.
Basically, I just feel that she should have had to give her information too, you know, just to follow through, you know, with the information that I gave.
So what you're saying is that... Are you chewing gum?
Yes, ma'am.
So basically, Mr. Rosenquist, what you're saying is if she didn't like the way I handled it, she should have handled it herself.
Yes.
You're a fast learner. First of all, let's go back. Why was he driving your car? Look at me. Don't smile. Don't smile, and don't give me a lot of baloney. Why was he driving your car?
Because he insisted on it, and he was checking to see if I had a noise in my car, and he was driving it to see what was wrong.
Was he a mechanic?
Yes.
Was he your mechanic?
No, he was a friend that was a mechanic.
He was a friend of yours. Was he a date? Had you gone out with him?
We're just friends, good friends.
And on what day was he driving your car?
I believe it was July 17th, 2002.
And how long had he been driving your car?
Probably 2 minutes.
Where did this accident happen?
He was taking a right into an apartment complex.
Why was he going into an apartment complex?
Because that's where his friend was at, that he wanted to go see if he was home. He takes a right, and the music was up kind of loud. I have a loud stereo. So he turned into the apartment complex, hit the other car, and the guy got out of his car, stopped us, and he got out of the car, started talking to the other guy. By the time I got out, he said that he had given him his information and that everything was going to be taken care of, that he was going to pay for all damages and for me not to worry about it. And so I calmed down, and we went back to his house, and I examined my bumper, which it had been scratched and ripped away a little bit, and he kept on assuring me everything was going to be taken care of.
What was the next thing that happened, Miss Klein?
A week later, he was talking to me, and I asked him if the guy had ever called him. He said no, he must have, you know, not really cared, not a lot of damage. And the next day, I get a phone call from my parents saying that the police called saying that I had been in a hit and run, and I needed to call Sherwood Police Department and work it out with them. So I called them. They told me that someone in the accident gave false information to the other driver, and so it's a hit and run, and since it's underneath my name, I'm the one responsible.
So what did you do?
I went to the police station, talked to him, and then they told me that they would put a warrant out for my arrest and arrest me if I did not bring him in. So I went and got him, and I brought him in.
What did you tell the police?
I told the police my version of the story.
Which was?
When we pulled into the parking lot, you know, the stereo was loud. and I didn't even feel anything. It was kind of a heat, nah, dead serious. Did not feel anything at all. I don't know if it was because the subs were going or what, but pulled in the parking lot, next thing you know, I've got this gentleman standing next to the window. You know, I couldn't even really understand him very well, but I could smell liquor. We were at the river all day, and I actually was drinking too. And he was a little bit belligerent, I felt a little bit threatened, hence the false information that I gave.
So you gave false information?
The only false information that I did give was not my last name.
Well, what last name did you give him?
My mother's maiden name.
So you gave him misinformation?
Still, he got a hold of me.
You gave misinformation?
So be it.
Oh.
I didn't want a drunk person showing up at my house, endangering my family or myself, or anybody else for that matter.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Klein says former friend Michael Rosenquist owes for wrecking her car and then giving false information.
What do you do for a living?
Iron worker,
How old are you?
24.
Do you go to church? I asked you a question.
Religiously? No.
Ever?
Yes, I do.
Do you know the name of a minister?
Do I? A few, yeah.
Good.
I know a few
Then
chaplains.
Just a second.
Sorry.
I'm way ahead of you. So if you were concerned that this belligerent drunk would contact you or go to your home, you say, listen, I don't know who you are, sir, so I'm going to give you the name of my minister. This is my name, and you can get in touch with me through my minister, and I will contact my minister, and we can make arrangements for me to fix your property through that. There are all kinds of ways to do it if you want to be honest. If you want to be dishonest and slick, you do what you did, which is give him misinformation so that he can't track you down. The only problem is he has her license plate number.
That's correct.
So she got in trouble. What did you do about it when you found out she got in trouble? What did you do?
I went down to the police station.
Did you take care of her car? The answer is either yes
No.
or no. Did you take care of the man's car?
Nope.
Why not?
That's what we're deciding here today.
We're not deciding anything. You already told her that you would take care of everything. You said, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. I gave him my information, I'll take care of it. That's what you told her. So you lied to her. Isn't that right?
Yes.
That means you're a liar. You also lied to me because you filled out this answer, which I read very carefully, which didn't say at all that you gave him misinformation. It says, he made it very tense, so I gave him my work address as a means of contacting me. So you gave him your work address, but with the wrong name.
Wrong last name.
Wrong name. What's your first name?
Michael.
Okay, let's see this. Bird, how many Michaels do you know? Just think. How many Michaels do you know? Do you know more than 2 Michaels?
I know more than 10 Michaels.
No more than 10 Michaels. What's your name?
Jeff DeMott.
Jeff! How many Michaels do you know?
More than 5.
What's your name?
Josh.
Better not be Michael. You know a couple of Michaels, Josh?
I know about 3.
We're not talking about a very, very odd name. We're talking about Michael. Michael. Right? And you work as an iron worker?
That's correct.
And how many people work in your plant?
My plant?
Where you work?
Where do I work?
Where you work. The plant where you work. Unless you do iron work in your backyard.
I build power plants and water treatment facilities. It
So
depends.
you must work with a lot of people.
Of course I do.
Any Michaels?
More than a few.
So let's not play with each other, Mr. Rosenquist. Miss Klein, I'm finished with playing with Mr. Rosenquist. He is a loser, and a dishonest one at that. So would you kindly tell me what your damages were?
First, I have a $75 ticket I had to pay because they gave me a ticket for failure to report an accident. Then I have an estimate of my insurance with my parents compared to one on my own now.
What do you mean?
Well, because of this whole entire situation, I was underneath my parents' insurance, and the accident was for the other guy's car was paid from my insurance company, and plus this extra ticket on my insurance too. So my insurance went through the roof.
He's not going to compensate you for that. You want to know why? Don't let somebody else drive your car. And if somebody is driving your car and turns up the blasters up so that you can't hear yourself think and you can't hear yourself have an accident, then that's your problem.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Where is your engagement ring?
It's home.
So you still have it?
Yeah,
Yes.
she wouldn't give it back.
Why didn't you give him back the engagement ring?
Because I figured he owed me more than that with his wedding. You stood me up.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Klein says former friend Michael Rosenquist owes for wrecking her car and then giving false information.
You want to know something else? I'm adding on the $75 ticket $500 because that's what I think your afternoon of having agita was worth when you had to go down to the police station after your parents being called and told that you were being charged with hit and run unless you went down there because he lied.
Okay, thank you.
And that's what I think it's worth other than taking care of the other person's car. Now, did you do that or did the insurance company do that?
Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Did your insurance company cover the other man's
Yes.
damage or did you?
No, the insurance company did,
Fine.
and that's the reason why.
What about the damage to your car?
I only have liability, so it didn't cover my car.
Is it a scratched bumper that you had fixed or that you didn't have fixed?
I haven't been able to get it fixed because my insurance has been so expensive. I haven't had a car for 10 months. And
You haven't had a car?
Well, I've had the car, but I haven't been able to drive it. I haven't been able to afford it being a college student. But I got an estimate, which is $586.50.
To fix the bumper?
Yes.
So he's going to pay you $75 for the ticket and $500 for either your aggravation or the bumper. Do you understand? Do you understand?
Yes.
$575, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Please are excused. You may step out.
I think it went well. I'm happy that I got something, at least.
She knows that I was drinking all day long at the rivers. I mean, she was right there with me.
He continuously told me that once he got a job, he was going to reimburse me, and I never saw him or the money after that.
Lost a pretty good friendship over it, and, you know, it's taken a lot of time out of me.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Graves versus Darden. Step forward, please.
Homemaker Angelina Graves is suing her ex-fiancé, nurse's assistant Johnny Darden, for the cost of wedding expenses. Angelina says Johnny left her standing at the altar.
Mr. Darden, you don't mind if I start with you, do you?
Go ahead.
Because we're going to, for a brief moment, put the law on a shelf. And let's talk reality and common sense. Okay? According to what I've read in your complaint and your answer, the two of you have been together some 13 years.
Off and on.
And you have a child together.
Son,
Who is how old?
7.
Is that your only child?
Yes.
And is that your only child?
No.
How many children do you have?
I have a daughter, 20.
And the two of you finally decided to make legitimate a relationship that had gone on and off for 13 years and were planning a wedding. And Mr. Darden, it seems that the day of the wedding or the day before the wedding, you decided it was a big mistake and you took off,
Yes.
leaving Miss Graves to deal with the guests, the wedding, the plans, the out-of-town visitors, the caterer, the gown, the wine, the flowers, the everything. You just couldn't deal with it. You couldn't face her and you took off. Right?
Yes.
And Miss Graves says she wants the wedding expenses paid by you because you took off, and what she's requesting is relatively modest. It's $1,600. And your defense to that was, your legal defense is, we never had an agreement that I would reimburse her for the money that she laid out for the wedding.
Yes.
What's your son's name, Mr. Darden?
Quayon.
And who does Quayon live with?
His mother.
Do you love him?
Yes, I do.
Do you see him?
Yes.
How often do you see him?
Now, about once a week.
And is he a happy child?
Yes, he is.
You love him to death?
Yes, ma'am.
He lives with his mother. So I assume if you're an intelligent man, and you appear to be an intelligent man, that you want the person who's caring for your most cherished possession, which is your son, to be happy.
Yes, I do.
Of course, you understand that you made her very unhappy when you left her with all this.
Yes.
When you left her at the altar, having to have to deal with the whole wedding, and you took off.
Yes.
And what it's going to cost, and I'm not even getting into her bills, what it's going to cost is $1,600 for her to be happy. And if she's happy, Quayan is happy. And if she's unhappy, it's not that she will make him unhappy, it's just that that sort of feeds into a family.
It does.
Are we following each other, Mr. Darden?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you giving Miss Graves support for Quayan?
Yes.
How much do you pay her?
$42 a week.
You think that's enough?
No, I don't.
It isn't. Miss Graves, how much was the entire amount that you laid out?
It was about 21.
And Mr. Darden, your answer says that you also spent about $1,000 in wedding
Yes, I
expenses.
did.
What did you buy?
I didn't buy anything. I gave her the money.
Did he?
He gave me $300.
$300.
No,
He gave- I'm sorry.
he gave you $300. So
Yes.
he spent, let's deal with what she has. Did he buy rings?
He bought my ring. Yeah, he bought my engagement ring.
Where is your engagement ring?
It's home.
So you still have it?
Yes.
Yeah, she wouldn't give it back.
Do you want it back?
Yes, I asked for it back.
Why didn't you give him back the engagement ring?
Because I figured he owed me more than that with his wedding. You stood me up. But he can have the ring. I don't want it.
Fine.
He can.
So we can have it back.
Yes.
I mean, I don't have a counterclaim, but as long as you agree, then you
can
can have
have
the
it.
ring back. Okay? So let's say, in addition to that money, you gave her $300, which means that $2,400 was spent on the entire wedding, including your wedding dress.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Was it custom-made wedding dress?
No, it was bought like that.
How much did you spend for it?
I paid $800 for the gown.
So if you spent $800 for the gown and it was never worn,
No.
you could probably sell it for $4, at least. That's half. So I'm taking $400 off the $2,400, leaving $2,000. Now, Mr. Darden, what's going to make Miss Graves happy is not what she's suing for, but you're going to get your ring back, which you can sell. What's going to make her happy is $1,000, which is half of $2,000, because I believe that each of you would be responsible for the expenses of the wedding, even though you got cold feet. It's better to get cold feet before than afterwards. So how do you feel about that, Mr. Darden? You think that's fair?
No.
Why not?
Well, I don't feel I should have to pay. Because I gave her more than $300 on this wedding.
How much did you give
Like,
her?
I don't have receipts on them because I didn't ask for receipts.
How much did you give her?
At least $1,000.
Oh, for what? Tell me for what.
I don't know what for. She just said she needed money, and I gave it to her. I didn't ask what she was spending it on. I didn't ask for a receipt because I never thought this would come up.
Mr. Darden, the embarrassment alone is worth $1,000, sir.
You're right.
Okay. And the fact that your son lives with his mother and she's unhappy is worth that.
Yeah.
And the fact that somebody made an order for $42 a week support for your only child, which means you're getting off really cheap. Wouldn't happen in my court, I'll tell you that right now. Should make the $1,000 to you a bargain. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
20-year-old student Cecilia Durazo is suing her former live-in boyfriend, 22-year-old web designer Carlos Chanlate, for a loan for furniture. Carlos is countersuing, claiming Cecilia broke into his apartment and destroyed the furniture in question.
Yeah, this is case number 141 on the calendar in the matter of Durazo versus Chanlate. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Razzo, I've read your complaint, and according to what I've read, you were living in Syracuse, New York.
Yes, I attend school there.
Mr. Chanlate was living in New York City.
That's correct, ma'am.
He was smitten and decided to move from New York City to Syracuse, New York, a decision that he lived to regret.
That's correct, ma'am.
According to you, he moved there in April of 2002, correct?
Yes.
And he got an apartment. The apartment had no furniture, and according to your complaint, you loaned him money to buy furniture so that he'd have a couch to sit on and a bed to sleep on, and he owes you $610. Mr. Chanlate said that the furniture was a gift because he relocated to live with you. The money that was advanced was never intended to be a loan. You couldn't stand the fact that he was sleeping on the floor and sitting on a crate, so that you agreed to buy him the furniture. In addition to that, Mr. Chanlate says that 4 months later you unceremoniously dumped him, right?
That's correct, ma'am.
And then broke into his apartment, causing him to have to change the locks. He ultimately went to the police. He lost a day's wages, which he's counterclaiming for. He was also fired from his job because he worked at the school where you were a student, and they made him leave the school, and on and on and on. And aside from everything else, he hated Syracuse.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So he's counterclaiming. So let's hear about the furniture.
Yes, he got an apartment. At the time, he had very little people that were willing to help him, including his parents.
Well, because he was moving to be close to you.
Which I did not ask him to do. I asked him not to move to Syracuse.
Really?
Yes.
You told him not to move to Syracuse?
Yes, several times.
Is that right?
Actually, Your Honor, what she had said was that she didn't think it was a good idea. However, she left the moving up to me.
She didn't think it was a good idea?
Yeah.
Because why?
Just because I had to move, job that I was working at, I had to leave that job, had to find a new job up there. Those kind of circumstances, Your Honor.
So she didn't think it was so smart for you to leave New York City?
Yes.
So why did you come?
I moved because I thought that I had enough money. I thought it'd be best for us maybe to be a little closer together. There were times where there was complaints about, us not being able to see each other as often.
Who was complaining, you or her?
Both parties, Your Honor.
Is that right?
More so him.
I gather. Okay, so we got there. Let's go.
He asked me to loan him the money to buy the furniture.
What did he say?
He didn't have money. He said, he began working at the university. As soon as he gathered enough money, he would pay me back. Mr. Plord, who is also Mr. Sean Latte's witness, was present when we bought the furniture. I bought him, I loaned him, I put it on my credit card. Knives, spoons, a little table that we bought, and a futon.
Were you present when this furniture was purchased?
Yes.
Step up, please. How do you know these people?
Well, she was a resident advisor at Marion Hall, and so was I, and that's how we met. And then when he moved to Syracuse, I met him because he was there.
Tell me what you know about the furniture.
It's a futon, it's a stainless
Oh, you were
steel.
there when it was purchased?
Yes. I brought the mattress home in my car.
Did you hear any conversation between the plaintiff and the defendant with regard to loan, gift?
She just put it on her credit card and didn't say much about repayment or anything.
You didn't hear any of that?
I didn't hear anything like that.
Good. You could have seen. Okay. So you put $610 on your credit card. Is that what you put on the credit card?
Yes, we've met several times after we broke up, even for lunch, discussing when payment would be made. So there's been plenty of discussion about the payment of the furniture, and Mr. Porter was also there when Mr. Sean Latte admitted that he did owe me that money.
Okay, fine. Now, sir, you say that she broke into the apartment and she destroyed the furniture.
Yes.
Is that true?
That is true, Your Honor.
Is that true?
I did not break into his apartment. We had a
Did you destroy the furniture?
No, I did not
Did you do anything to the furniture?
I will tell you how he claims.
No. Tell me what you did to the furniture.
I went to his apartment. I had the key, which he gave me. I went, he has a very narrow spiral staircase, and I slipped. It was myself and another girl. It was about my size. It's a pretty heavy futon, just the mattress. And we were unable to get it down the spiral staircase, so we had to throw it over.
Throw it over what?
The staircase is a spiral and it's thin. We could not physically get it through the staircase, so we had to throw it over.
And what? Put your hand down.
Okay.
And what happened when you threw it over? You mean just the mattress?
Well, yeah, we got it down there. Like I said, I slipped, and we got it down there. And then once we were trying to get it in my friend Kenny's car, who took us to get the mattress, and we weren't able to. So we left to go find Carlos so I can retrieve the rest of my items, the futon frame and everything else I had in the apartment.
Could you tell me what you did with the futon?
The mattress?
I lost you at it. You couldn't get it in your car after you threw it over the railing.
Yeah, I left it there because there's nowhere I could not.
Where?
I left it on the ground outside because...
You get nothing for the furniture.
The futon frame is...
You get nothing for the furniture. Madam. Zero.
The mattress costs only about $200 compared to...
I don't care. In order for him to be able to use the futon frame, he has to have a futon. You destroyed the futon.
He had a year to pay me back for it. And
Then if you had waited and done exactly what you did by filing a small claims case against him, you would have gotten your money if I found that, indeed, he promised to pay you back. But what you did was, first you went to his house, You destroyed part of the property. They put him in a position where he couldn't use it because in order to use a futon frame, because I know what they look like, you have to have a futon mattress. So either he had to go out and buy a new futon mattress so that he could use it, or he gets rid of the frame. You get nothing for the furniture. Do you understand?
Do I get my furniture back?
What furniture back?
It belongs to me. I paid for it. So can I have the futon?
If he's got it,
Your
do you
Honor,
have the frame?
It is currently in Jonathan Ford's dorm room.
Oh, fine.
So she can go pick it up also.
Perfect. Just a second.
All right.
So far, you're not doing badly, right?
Yes.
She's going to come over and get the frame.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Jonathan? Zippity-doo-dah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That I do not have. He has not returned my phone calls.
Listen, I'm getting really frustrated. And I shouldn't be frustrated. I'm too old to be frustrated.
And later today,
the change out of my piggy bank is missing.
You think she took all that?
I'm not sure. From what
Give me a break.
me,
She don't look like the kind of person who would steal your property, madam.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cecilia Durazo claims ex-boyfriend Carlos Shanlate owes for a loan to buy furniture. Carlos says Cecilia destroyed the furniture in question.
Let's get to your counterclaim. So we've just taken care of your claim. Futon frame back to her, 5 days. Perfect.
Do I get the money for the spoons and table and everything else?
No, you don't get the money for the spoons. Now let's move on. She used the key, she acknowledges, to go into your apartment, so you had to change the locks. On what date did she go into your apartment?
I believe that was April 26th. It was a Saturday.
And when did you leave that apartment?
About a week and a half later.
Now, do you have a receipt from a locksmith for changing the locks on the apartment?
No, my landlord did the lock change. He charged me for the lock. And
Show me.
I don't have it.
Well, that's what we call proof. In court, we need proof.
I do have photographs of the damage to the apartment, which caused me to lose my security deposit, though, Your Honor.
Show me proof that the landlord kept your security deposit. Do you have that?
No, that I do not have. He has not returned my phone calls.
Listen, I'm getting really frustrated. And I shouldn't be frustrated. I'm too old to be frustrated. When you come to court, you have to have proof. Do you understand?
I understand, Your Honor.
You don't have proof for me. It's very easy to get a letter, statement, showing that I'm not returning your security deposit, because I would assume that if the apartment wasn't a wreck, you would have gotten your security deposit back, right?
Yes. Also, on top of that, because I was forced to resign from my job, I had to abruptly leave Syracuse. And my lease, which I have here, states that I have to let him know 2 months ahead of time that I'm leaving, or else he keeps the security deposit.
There you go. And you had to leave Syracuse because, according to you, you worked at the same place that she worked.
Yes, and my...
Well, I mean, that's all hearsay. That all would be hearsay, why you had to leave. But you did leave.
Yes.
Now you are apart from each other. And I assume you're back in New York City?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
Working?
At the current time, I'm working with a web design company down in Miami, working from home.
I don't care where you're working from. You're working.
Yes.
Are you living alone or with your parents?
Currently, I'm living with my parents looking for another apartment.
Perfect. That sounds fine. And you're going to get your futon frame back. That's perfect. Goodbye. Good luck. Have a happy life.
Please excuse. You may step out.
He knows that he owes me the money.
She seems to forget the bills that I have paid.
And he refuses to pay me.
However, we had an argument.
He had another bill to pay.
And she didn't confront me as, you know, as a normal human being would.
He just didn't have the money.
She came at me with rage.
There was always an excuse.
You can't trust some women.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Slade versus Ellis. Step forward, please.
22-year-old nanny Ivory Slade is suing her former employer, 24-year-old bartender Crystal Ellis, for firing her without warning and keeping her belongings. Crystal is countersuing for damage to her home.
Miss Slade, you were hired as a nanny for Miss Ellis, according to what I've read in your complaint. You worked for her for a short time. She let you go. And it is your claim that she kept some of your personal property. When did you move into Mrs. Ellis's home?
March 26th, which was a Wednesday.
And tell me about your employment arrangement with her.
The arrangement was that I would move in. I'd work Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays from 6 to 2:30 in the morning. She wouldn't pay me. The arrangement was I'd get room and board for free in exchange for taking care of her kids from 6 till 2:30.
Okay. So you started working on March 26th, and how long did it last?
A week.
So it didn't work out. You were not satisfied, I assume.
That's right.
Okay. And she's certainly entitled to do that.
Right.
Now, what items do you say that she kept?
Well, the things that were missing was my Sony camcorder. It was a regular Kodak 35mm camera. They took, my bath towel is missing. The change out of my piggy bank is missing. My wallet
You
is
think
missing.
she took that?
And my CDs.
You think she took all that?
I'm not sure. From what
Give me
she's
a
telling
break.
me, somebody moved
Miss Slade.
it. Yeah.
Miss Ellis, who do you live in your home with?
I live there right now with my 2 children, and I have another nanny that stays in the room that she did stay in.
Okay.
And
why do you have a nanny?
Because I work nights, and
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a bartender.
Okay. What kind of house is this?
It's about 5 years old. It's a very nice house.
Whose house is it?
My grandmother, she bought it for me.
You drive a car?
Yes.
What kind of car do you drive?
I drive a 2000 Pontiac Grand Am.
Do you have any savings?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Ever been arrested?
No.
Ever stolen property?
No.
Miss Slade, she doesn't look like the kind of person who would steal your property, madam. Miss Slade, according to your answer that you filed, madam, you say that the only thing that was missing were your CDs.
Okay, can I just say one thing?
Absolutely.
When I got there, I have 85 CDs. They're in a case like this. It's a cylinder case. Of course, I noticed that was missing because when I brought it over there, it was in the box with the pillows and the sheets so that they would be protected. I noticed it was missing because it wasn't in that box. And I'm thinking, how did they package these? They probably scratched up, broken, whatever. So that's the first thing I noticed. I'm telling you now, I don't think she took it. When she told me was that she didn't tell me she moved and another lady moved. She said the people who moving into the room moved my things. I called her numerous times and she never answered her phone. She has call ID.
I don't believe that your camcorder was missing.
Well, okay, I'm sorry.
Do you understand that?
Yes, I understand that. But it
Very good. Is this your mother?
This is my mother who bought
and
the
just a
camcorder.
second, and I want you to notice your mother's face going like this. She probably didn't realize that it was going like this. I don't believe, so let's get over the camcorder.
Okay.
Good.
Good. Okay. We're over the camcorder. My CDs, the camcorder is only $200. It wasn't a big thing. My CDs.
I don't care what it was.
Okay.
I want you to understand that, Miss Slade.
Okay.
When I think that you're pulling the wool over my eyes or giving me a baloney story about one thing, I tend to doubt the other things that you're talking about. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's your problem.
All right.
So, I say you didn't have a camcorder that was missing. And unfortunately, your mother can't keep a straight face because while that was happening, she was shaking her head up and down like this.
Okay.
We understand each other?
Yes.
Good.
Okay. So when I spoke to her, she told me other people moved my things. When I spoke to her, I said, my things are missing. I'm telling her thinking she's going to say, well, I'll speak to her. I'll see what happened or whatever. She didn't do any of that. She just started getting offended and cursing me out, saying, I didn't do, I said, I'm not, if you're telling me someone else moved my things, then I'm telling you they took my things. She keeps talking about her.
Things. When you're talking about things, what things did you tell her were missing?
Well, I told her that my CDs were missing.
Right. CDs.
Right.
And what else did you tell her was missing?
I told her, well, I don't know if you want me to say this, but I told her the camcorder was missing.
When did you tell her that the camcorder
I told her
was missing?
over the phone.
Did she ever tell you the camcorder was missing?
No, she never told me about a camcorder.
What did she tell you about?
First it was the CDs, then she told me some towels and a piggy bank with $10 of change in it.
Is the bank you're talking about with $10 and change the bank that you're talking about that was full of money?
It wasn't full. It's a pretty big piggy bank. It's a piggy bank about this long, this high, and it had $10 worth of change in it.
How do you know?
Because I counted it.
When?
Before I left. I know it sounds weird, but I counted it.
It sounds very weird to take time from your very busy job, taking care of your child, and how many you have?
I have 2.
2, 3 children, to unscrew the piggy bank bottom and sit there and count out $10 worth of change.
Okay.
Do you
this was my
understand that?
day off. When I left, it was my day off. I was going to take it with me to get it changed into dollars.
So why didn't you?
Because when I was running late already, I knew when my appointment, I had things to do that day. That's why I was leaving. And I know by the time I finished everything I was going to do, it wasn't going to be enough time. Then what I was initially going to do.
So you put all the change back into the piggy bank?
Right.
Once you take it out and count it, that means you put it in piles, right?
Yes.
And if you take it out and take the trouble to take the money out and put it in piles, you keep it separate. You don't throw it all back together, because that would be stupid, because that's a big waste of time. So if you take it out, you put the quarters in one place, and then you say, even if I'm not going to take it today, I'll wrap this up, and this is $6 in quarters, this is $4 in nickels, wrap it up in something, in a sock, in a handkerchief, in a paper towel, and put it away. But now you tell me that you counted out $10. First you told me money. Now it turns out that it's $10. Ask you, how do you know it's $10? Because I counted it. When did you count it? I counted it before I was leaving on my... I mean, do you understand what I'm saying to you,
Yes,
Ms. Slade?
I understand what you're saying.
What I'm saying to you is, you didn't pay attention to what I said 5 minutes ago, which is, if you lie to me once, I don't believe the rest of what you tell me.
What I'm trying to tell you is I'm not lying to you.
Miss Ellis, this is what I want you to do, madam. The same people live with you now that were living with you before?
Yes. One lady.
One lady?
Yes.
This is what I want you to do. Does that lady have anything that plays CDs?
No. She owns nothing but clothes. I had to furnish her room for her.
When she came to you, she had nothing but clothes?
Nothing but clothes. Not even a car. I transported her where she needed to go.
And do you have access to her room?
Yes, I do.
Did anybody else come back within the next few days to visit with her?
No, I don't allow anybody in my home.
Okay. Did you see, then, the next few days, a case of CDs?
No. I've never seen her CDs.
Miss Slade, I don't know where your CDs are. Can't help you. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And is countersuing for the return of his belongings.
Quiet in the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 140 on the calendar in the matter of Earl versus Mays. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Miss Earl, you and the defendant were sort of in a relationship, I gather, and you moved in with him along with, I think, your children. It is your claim that he became abusive, that you had to flee the apartment, that he owes you for rent because you paid the rent, that he assaulted you, you want to be compensated, that he kept some of your personal property, you want it back. Mr. Mays says that he was really nothing but nice to you, that you had a drug problem. Is that right?
Yes.
And that you were incarcerated at least twice when you were living with him, that he took care of your children, he enrolled them in school, that on the day of the alleged assault, you in fact assaulted him. He's got the police reports to prove it. And he is counterclaiming because he says that when you left the apartment, you stole some property that belonged to him. When did you meet Mr. Mays, Miss Earl?
In December at court. We met at the courthouse.
You met at the courthouse?
Yes, we did. I was moving from my condo. I had just sold it, and I was looking for a place to live, and me and Mr. Mays were kind of dating, but we weren't, like, going out together.
You met him in December. When did you move in with him?
In February. Me and my 2 children moved in with him.
How old are your children?
12 and 13 at the time.
What kind of a drug problem do you have?
I don't anymore. I did have a glass, speed, meth, and so does the defendant.
Where is the father of these 2 children?
In Fullerton. They live in Fullerton. My children are with their father right now.
Good. Are they there pursuant to a court order?
Now they are, yes.
Now, what was your arrangements with regard to rent? Your rent was $450 a month, according to your complaint?
Yes, ma'am.
And you paid him the rent for April, according to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me what happened in April.
My birthday was on the 6th of April. We went to Vegas. We had returned. Me and Brian were having a lot of problems.
Would you look at me?
We were doing drugs at the time. I mean, I must admit I was fully into the drugs with the defendant at the time. I had recently sold my house, so I did have quite a bit of money. The night before in question, all this happened, I had went to the bank in the evening and took out, I believe it was approximately $2,500. I went out that evening and spent like $1,000 on drugs.
Where were your children?
That's a good question. They were with their father at the time. They had returned that night when I had come home. I was very sick at the time. I didn't even do anything. I was very sick. I came in the house and I pretty much laid down. That whole evening, Brian tried to start fights with me. He knew I had money, or he knew I had something, or whether money, drugs, I'm not sure. When I had gotten up that morning to get my kids ready for school, I remember I'd parked my car in front of the house instead of in our driveway in the back. And I went to go move my car and get my money. I had a lot of problems with him. I
don't want to hear about all your problems. You left your money in the car? Is that what
exactly.
you're telling me?
So when I came back in, he grabbed me by the throat, took my money. We were fighting. He held me down. If I remember right, I got a couple good punches in there because he did hold me. I mean, I think I did get it. So he grabbed the phone, dialed 911. And the bottom line is he totally beat me up. This guy is 6'2". He beat me up, took my money.
Report?
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see the police report?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't have the report, do you?
I was not there.
You have photographs of your injuries?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
No, I'm talking to her. Do you have
I
photographs?
tried to get him. I couldn't get him through the courthouse, through my public defender.
You were charged with assault? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, and I was arrested, but they dropped charges.
But you were arrested?
Yes, definitely.
Well, this is a copy of an incident that happened on April 23rd.
It must be some of the other paperwork that you have there.
Yeah, well, this has to do with Miss Earl assaulting a police officer on April 23rd after she attempted to get her children out of school. And there was a restraining order. You understand that there was a restraining order at that time preventing you from being within 100 yards of your children.
Yes, but I did not know that at the time.
Well, then you knew it. You found out.
Yes, I did.
All right, good. Here we go, on Tuesday, April 8th.
Yes, ma'am.
There we go. Well, your two sons say that they heard Mr. Mays beg you to please move your car that you had parked in the street so that he could get his car out of the driveway to go to work. Begged you over and over again. You were so blitzed out on speed, you probably don't remember that. But your two sons remember that you hit him twice. He hit you not once. That's according to your own sons.
I know.
All
It was
right.
6 o'clock
So what do you want? What do you want from me?
My kids did not see him grab me by the neck and grab my purse and take my money from me.
Miss Earl, if you want to have a clear picture of what happens, you have to have a clear mind.
Yes.
When you are living your life in a drug-induced stupor, which you were on the night of April 8th.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't rely on anything that you say to me. Do you understand?
Okay.
Good. So I don't know what it is that you want. You're not going to get any money for an assault because the only thing that I have is a police report indicating that you assaulted him. That's all I have.
You can't tell just by looking at this guy he can beat the crap out of me?
I want to tell you something else. When somebody is spinning around the world on speed, they think they have the strength of 10 people. According to your own sons, he stood up and said to you, hit me if you have to. You hauled off and you hit him once and then you punched him again on the other side of his face. That's what your two sons said. He certainly, according to the police, has a history of domestic violence.
Oh, yeah, he was arrested. He was arrested right
So
then
were
and
you.
there, but not
You were
then.
also arrested 2 weeks later in school when you made a scene and assaulted a couple of cops who went to get you away from your children's school.
I was never assaulted, no cops. I had
sure
never.
you were. You want me to read what the police officers say?
Please, yes.
Oh, sure. I'll be
I've
delighted.
never heard it.
I'll be delighted. Officers Tucker and Harris arrested Earl for her involvement in their case. On my way to the jail, Earl began to kick the back of my seat and call me profanities, such as She seemed irrational and very upset as she was being arrested. Okay. Want me to go on?
No, but that's not...
That's what you did to police officers. That's what you did to police officers.
You said I assaulted a police officer. That was calling him a... That's not assaulting somebody. That's not punching somebody. My God.
She told me that she had been sick all night from crashing on meth high. She went on to say that she was addicted to the drug and was coming down from being awake and under the influence of the drug for approximately 3 days.
True. But that doesn't say I assaulted a police officer, man.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It didn't say that you assaulted a police officer. It said you were a rational human being.
Oh,
Okay,
well,
I have
I'm
absolutely
sure I
no
was.
evidence. I have absolutely no evidence that you were assaulted by the defendant. What you were suing for is the return of your rent because you paid April's rent, and as of April 8th, you were no longer in the house. And I find that you caused that yourself by assaulting the defendant, so you are not entitled to any rent back for April. Your personal property, do you have any of her personal properties?
What?
Is not an answer. I expect an answer from you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I left what was left out in the back, and she had come by with some friends and picked that up. There's a couple things that are left.
What's
Dead
left?
on arrival?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Who was arrested the night of the 10th?
I was.
For what?
Because they found some of the plaintiff's paraphernalia in the
Oh my God. He is my drug dealer.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Pamela Earle says ex-boyfriend Brian Mays beat her up in a fit of rage. Brian claims it was Pamela who beat him up.
Put that down. What's left?
There's a box sitting back there. I don't know what it is.
Fine, but
just,
it's all boxed.
Yes.
Who is this person?
This is a witness that saw what was going on and watched her move the stuff out and take some things of mine.
Does he live next door?
He's my roommate. He was my roommate at the time.
All of our roommates, Your Honor.
Okay. All I want to know is where can she go to pick up her boxes? You want to take it to a local precinct at a set time?
It's right across the street. That'd be fine, Your Honor.
Fine. We'll give you a date.
He's going to have dead on arrival on all my crap,
Miss
Your
Earle,
Honor.
I want you to be very quiet. I'm losing patience with you very slowly. You want your property back. Whatever he has, he is going to bring to the police station 5 days from today's date. You can go and pick it up there. If you're not there 5 days from today's date, they're going to throw it out. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Now, you want to tell me what property you claim she stole from the house, sir?
I have a list of everything.
Oh, my God.
What's a family lanyard?
They're trading pins that me and my children had collected through the years going to Disneyland on our trips.
Your Honor, I only got a pack of cigarettes from the guy. That's the only thing I took.
You see, when you use drugs, you find it hard to control yourself.
That's my...
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Step up.
Those are
Mr.
my
Mays,
drug
have you been in a drug rehab program?
Yes, I have.
When was the last time you were in rehab?
Early 2002.
For how long?
14 months.
But then you fell off the wagon, Mr. Mays.
Yes, he did.
No, ma'am.
Oh,
yes,
sure
he
you
did.
Sure you did. You know how I know that you did?
How's that?
Very easy. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't have taken her into your house. Because if you're in a program for 14 months and you want to stay clean, you don't pick up a drug addict in a courthouse and say, come on to my house. That's how I know. You understand each other?
I was trying to help.
I'm not interested in your being a knight in shining armor for this drug addict.
Yes, ma'am.
You may sound better. You may
brother.
sound better than she does, but the drug rehab program didn't work, Mr. Mays. Did you see her take any property from the house? Look at me.
Yes, Your Honor.
Your name?
John River, sorry.
You ever in drug rehab?
Yes, Your Honor.
When did you leave for the last time?
3 years ago, Your Honor.
Tell me about what you saw Miss Earle take from Mr. Mays' home.
She came in approximately 9 or so at night. When Mr. Mays was
What date?
Still incarcerated. I think that was the 12th.
What was he arrested for?
It was part of the domestic violence. So
Who was arrested the night of the 10th?
I was.
Yes, he was.
For what?
Because they found some of the plaintiff's paraphernalia in the
Oh, my God. He is my drug dealer,
they found
Your
what?
Honor.
paraphernalia.
And so they took you away?
Yes,
Yeah.
they did.
Go ahead.
So when I came home that morning, house was in disarray. Saw a domestic violence pamphlet, so I proceeded to call the police station. Found out that Mr. Mays was incarcerated. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, her boys showed up. I allowed them to take their property, their bikes, their father. About 9 o'clock at night, she showed up, and I let her take what I thought was hers. There was a brown folder that I believe had stamps in it. The Disney pins that were around the necklace, I did see those.
You did?
Yes.
Where did you see those?
They were hanging in the kid's room.
Did you have children living with you?
No, I do not.
What's a Gerber knife?
It's just a utility knife, like a...
What's a green bottle?
It's something that we picked up when we were in Vegas.
Mr. Mays.
Yes, ma'am.
This is nonsense. This is nonsense, Mr. Mays. We're not talking about anything. We're talking about a Smith & Wesson knife.
That was given to me by my brother in 1981. It was inscribed at Christmas. And,
So what do you want from me? You think she still has it? If she took it, you think she still has it? You think she knows where it is? You think she knows where it is? Mr. Mays, you should have been smart enough after being out of rehab for a few months and having been there 14 months not to pick somebody up who was a drug addict in a courthouse. and bring him into your home. That was pretty dumb. You're lucky that all she took were a couple of pairs of sunglasses and a couple of kitchen knives. That's all. Your counterclaim is dismissed. As far as your claim is concerned, Ms. Earl,
Yes,
I have absolutely no proof that he assaulted you. I have absolutely no proof that he owes you any rent. You chose to leave that day. You fled. You were high on drugs. You acknowledged that you took out $2,500 from the bank to go out and buy $1,000 worth of drugs, leaving your children home unsupervised because, according to you, they came home at some point that evening and you were dead to the world. I have absolutely no sympathy for you. All I can suggest to you is you have a responsibility. If you make 2 children, you're supposed to be a reasonable parent. Stop worrying about the past. Stop worrying about a couple of dollars that you paid and didn't use in rent. Start worrying about being a reasonable parent. And you, sir?
Ma'am, even though he witnessed her take the stuff, it's not.
Oh no, he didn't. Listen to me. He said he saw her take a folder that he assumed had stamps in it. That's what he said. He said he saw her take a lanyard that was in the boys' room.
That was my kids' room too when they came over and stayed there.
He said they were in the boys' room, is what he said.
Yes.
My kids, when they come to visit me, they stay in that room.
No, that was the room I rented, ma'am.
Listen to me. That's what he said. You didn't say anything about a Smith & Wesson knife, did you?
No.
Good. All right. Goodbye.
Please excuse you, may step out.
Beth Garcia claims her boyfriend's ex, Jamie Petola, vandalized her car by keying it.
Miss Garcia, the defendant is your current boyfriend's ex-girlfriend.
And also the mother of his child.
Where is your boyfriend today?
He couldn't make it because he's had too many issues with her and pending court problems with her that he has to take care of. So that's why he couldn't make it.
He didn't have any pending court matters today, did he?
None at all.
Hmm?
None at all. He never
None at
has.
all. But he decided to take the high road and just be absent, even though he probably created all of these problems to begin with. Now, when did you last live with, what's his first name?
E. Lincoln.
E. Lincoln?
E. Lincoln.
E. period Lincoln?
Yes.
Well, what's his first name?
E. Lincoln.
There's no period between the E and the Lincoln. It's just E. Lincoln.
E. Lincoln. When did you first live with E. Lincoln?
When was the first I lived with him?
Yeah. First, give me the year.
Probably it was 2001.
And when did you last live with him?
2005.
When in 2005?
Around February, March.
And when did you start to be involved with Mr. Lincoln?
We officially were involved in October.
Of 2006?
2005.
Before a friend.
So there was a little overlapping?
No.
Yes. I was living with them and she knew.
Okay, so there was a little overlap.
Yeah.
They weren't together.
Yeah.
Hey. There was some overlapping. Now, it is your claim, Ms. Garcia, that the defendant vandalized your car, not on one occasion, but on multiple occasions.
Yes.
And despite the fact that you never saw her vandalize your cars, you have proof by way of admissions that she did, in fact, vandalize your cars. The car was vandalized.
On the morning of October 23rd, 2005 was when I noticed it, so it was that night.
Okay. And what was the nature of the vandalism?
She had keyed...
Don't tell me what she did.
She keyed
someone.
profane
No,
words.
listen to me.
Shh. Someone keyed profane words on my hood, my driver's door, and the back driver's door, because it's a 4-door, and put key marks on the rest of it, and knocked off the driver's side mirror.
Okay. Do you have photographs of the car?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see them.
Wow.
Now, with regard to this incident in October, what proof do you have that the defendant was responsible?
Well, before my involvement with E. Lincoln, I believe he said it was like in 2002.
Don't tell me what he said to you. That's hearsay.
In 2002, his vehicle was vandalized the same exact way.
You cannot tell me anything that he said to you, because that is hearsay. Do you have any proof that the defendant committed that vandalism on your car?
I have a police recording because on the night of January 3rd, 2006, she was calling my phone saying, "I'm going to vandalize your vehicle again." My roommate...
Okay, so you have a recording.
Yes, and the police report that stating that the police...
Let me see it, please.
That he heard the recording.
Where is the recording now?
They couldn't get it through, but we do have it, but it's real fuzzy. But the
She
police
probably messes with the cop. She probably messes with the cop.
No.
She probably talks to the cops.
I'm not speaking to you.
Sorry.
Car was damaged again when?
The next damage was on March 6, 2006.
Okay. With regard to the March incident, you told the police that it could have been any one of 3 people.
Right. Sorry.
I'm already convinced, madam, that you damaged her car in October. Already convinced based upon the police report. You want to be responsible for March too?
No.
Then keep your mouth shut. You told the police with regard to the March incident that it could have been any of 3 people. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Those 3 people are her friends.
I don't care. You're not responsible for your friends, Ms. Garcia. So you have no proof with regard to March 6th. Is that correct?
That's correct. But then there was another one.
When?
April 10th. And that one, both the taillights were broken off and both the side mirrors were broken off.
Did you have any conversation with the defendant about what happened to your car?
After the January 3rd conversation was the only conversation.
Okay. You want to explain yourself, madam, with regard to the October 23rd, 2005? You want to explain yourself to me?
I didn't do it.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
Then why, madam, when the police got you on the phone, which they did?
Why isn't there? She probably talks to
Just a
the cop.
second. Would you get her out of here? Thank you. Get her out of here. Why did you hang up the phone when a policeman identified himself on the phone?
Because when a person says the police are on the phone, you don't know if you could go to jail for something stupid or not. She played on my phone up until she called the cops on purpose, and then that's when I called back and was arguing with her because she told my son when he stayed at his house with my ex-boyfriend that she don't like me and all this other type of stuff. So I called her and was, arguing with her, whatever. And then she was like, "You did this to my car," whatever. She had the police right there. So he probably was hanging out at her house because she talks to a lot of people and she goes downtown and she talks to cops and stuff. So he probably was sitting right there, maybe. Maybe that's the case. I'm serious.
Let me see the estimate for the damage to your car on October 23rd,
This is the one
2005.
from the October
Police
23rd.
officers indicated that they heard the recording. Your recording.
I didn't get no police report.
But I got it.
They didn't say nothing to me.
Listen to me. I got it. I'm speaking. You don't have to help me.
She don't really know who did it, nothing to her car. It's so many people. She sleeps around with people she don't know.
Listen, Miss Attitude, you were annoyed with her because she was bad-mouthing you to your... I'm speaking. This is what you just told me. You're shaking your head no.
No.
You're shaking your head no. You just told me you were angry with her because she had bad-mouthed you to your son. That's why you were yelling at her on the phone.
Right.
Because she had bad-mouthed you to your son. That was the conversation that you said was overheard by the police officer.
Right, then
listen to me. That was after her car was vandalized in October.
Why didn't I call her before and argue with her if I messed up her car or somebody else was messing up her car? Just because I called and argued with her, that don't got nothing to do with me.
Garcia played officers a message on her cell phone left today by Jamie stating, amongst other things, that she was going to damage her vehicle once again. According to the officer, now implicating herself in the previous incident. Ryder was present when Jamie then called back Garcia and heard her repeatedly use profanity when she was addressing Garcia. Ryder attempted to speak with Jamie, however, she hung up on the phone when the Ryder identified himself as a police officer.
Right, I hung up.
She or her friends probably did the damage to your car. Unfortunately, you can't prove it, but you can certainly, you've established to my satisfaction, based on the fact that she was angry with you, based upon the fact that she knows that E. Lincoln was two-timing her. You may or may not have known it, but she knew it.
Yes.
October 23rd, 2005. Was that on or about the same time that you had this discussion with your son?
No, it just was recently when the first time I called her, the time that she taped me.
That was not the first conversation for us. I had to have my phone cut off.
No, that wasn't just recently, madam. It wasn't just recently. That was 4 months ago.
I know. That was the last time I talked to her.
How did you get her phone number?
She called my phone playing on it with her phone number. That's how I got it.
So what did you call her back for?
Because she was arguing and playing on my phone, so I cussed her out for playing on my phone.
You also said to her that you were going to damage her car again.
I did not say that.
So the police are lying?
Yeah.
The police are lying?
No, I don't think the police are lying. I think maybe it's one of her friends or something.
Police were lying?
No, I'm not going to say the police were lying, but...
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,619. That's all. Stay away from her car.
Kate Vermeulen is suing her ex-husband, James Vermeulen, for the unpaid balance on a Saturn he totaled.
Mrs. Vermeulen, this is your former husband, and according to your complaint, you swapped cars with each other because your mother was coming to visit. You needed a larger car. That was last summer. So it's nice to hear that there was at least a reasonable relationship that you had, so that you accommodated your former wife, because you have children together, so that she would use a larger car that was yours. And in any event, you wrecked her car, and there was an outstanding loan on the car. The car was, in fact, totaled, and your former wife feels as if you should be responsible for the difference between what the insurance company paid on the car and the amount of the loan that she's still responsible for, and that amount is $3,634. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have a counterclaim because you say at the time she borrowed your car, she had a minor fender bender, but damaged the bumper of the car.
Correct.
To the tune of about $800, and she should pay that.
Yes.
That's your counterclaim. But let's get to the big ticket item here, Mr. Vermeulen. When did you total her car?
I believe it was August 10th. I was on my way to work.
8/10. And when did you damage the bumper to his car?
Actually, it was so minor that I don't have the exact date.
Okay, but you called and told him about it?
Yes.
Okay. And you have a picture of it, I'm sure.
Yes, I do. I have a picture of the damages that were done to the bumper and actually an imprint.
Okay.
Your Honor, it was September 5th, I do believe, when he ruined my car, when he totaled my vehicle.
Why do you think that it was August 10th, sir?
I thought that was the day.
Well, it wasn't. It was September.
In September?
Yeah, because she would have a police report with regard to it.
Okay, I didn't know that there was any police report. I wasn't charged in the accident.
You have a police report?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please? So it wasn't in August, it was September. That's a big difference.
Sorry.
How do you account for that difference?
I don't know, Your Honor. I was working at that time there. I wasn't really paying attention to the date.
When did you swap cars?
Probably a couple days before her mother arrived. She was
Which was
coming
when?
in for England. Near the end of the summer, which was
In August?
In August.
Now, it's clear that, according to your answer, sir, that the accident was your fault, that your foot got stuck, according
Correct.
to you, on the gas pedal.
Between the gas pedal and the brake, Your Honor.
So it was your fault, right?
I guess if that's the way that you see it, yes, Your Honor.
Well, sir, unless you were driving a very unique car. The gas pedal was put in by the factory. It remained in the same spot. The brake was put in by the factory. It remained in the same spot. You were familiar with the car. You had had it for some time. According to your answer, my foot got stuck between the gas and the brake. You want me to read you what you signed?
No, Your Honor.
So if
I
the
know what I
foot got
signed.
stuck between the gas and the brake, it's your fault.
Okay.
Those two things didn't move together.
I was wearing my work boots at the time, which are larger than normal my way to work. And it is a sports car. The gas pedals are closer together. I drive a truck, Your Honor.
Well, whose fault is that, sir? The car's fault or your fault?
It was an accident.
No, sir. If you're wearing big boots and it's a small car, you take your boots, you put it in the back of the car, and you wear shoes that don't get stuck between the gas pedal and the brake. The car can't accommodate your work boots, right?
Right, Your Honor.
You have to accommodate the car, right?
Correct.
So it's your fault. Now tell me why you believe that you're not responsible for the difference between what the insurance company paid and what your former wife has to pay on the loan.
I believe it's not my fault due to the fact that I wasn't charged with the accident, reckless driving, careless driving. I had a medical report that says that there was no drugs or alcohol involved. I also had her insurance company clear me of all liabilities in relations to her car.
You made babies with him. Just because, sir, you weren't found guilty of a crime, that there was no drugs, alcohol, you weren't speeding, doesn't mean that the accident wasn't your fault. It was your fault. You just said to me I was wearing big work boots. This was a sports car. It doesn't accommodate those kind of shoes. My foot got stuck between the two pedals and I lost control of the car. And I just tried to explain to you what a normal person of reasonable intelligence would understand, that the car can't accommodate your shoes. Your shoes have to accommodate the car. Now, do you have a picture of the damage you did to the bumper of your car?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it. And an estimate on having it fixed.
I have an estimate right here.
Sir, you brought me an estimate from this place for $1,154?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, would you explain to me why?
I'm only asking for to cover the parts, the actual bumper itself, and have it painted there. I'm not asking for taxes, labor, insurance there. Originally, I asked her to pay for half because she is still entitled on her vehicle. She's entitled on the insurance, and she's still
Did you have
liable.
insurance on the car?
Yes, I did.
And what was the deductible?
$500, Your Honor.
So that all you're going to pay for is $500.
And then you're going to have a claim with your insurance company, and your insurance will go up. I decided to pay for the claim out of pocket rather than going through my insurance company and having my deductibles raised.
Well, what do you think's going to happen to her insurance, sir? Because you totaled her car. What do you think is going to happen to her insurance company that had to pay out a totaled car?
I'm quite aware that she's going to have a claim with her insurance company, and her deductible will probably go up as well as her insurance payments.
So you mean you want me to give you a benefit and not her?
I'm not asking for special treatment.
Yes, you are, sir. What you're saying is I decided that I didn't want to go through my insurance. So I decided to pay for it myself. And therefore, instead of just paying for the deductible, which I believe should be responsible for paying, if you in fact fix the car, then what you're saying is I want her to pay the additional amount, which is $822, which is the cost of the bumper, which is what you're suing for. Because if I went through the insurance, my insurance premiums would go up. That's
Correct.
what you're saying to me.
Yes.
But her insurance premiums are going to go up substantially more than yours, sir, because they had to pay out on a new car, right?
Correct, Your Honor.
Say nothing. You had a $500 deductible. You had to pay out $3,634. From that, I'm deducting $500. I'm awarding you on your claim $3,100. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now I want to see where you fixed the car. You have a bill for fixing the car?
That was a quote there. I've had the work done since
Where?
I paid for the parts.
Show me.
I don't have that with me, Your Honor.
Well, why did you bring me this, sir?
That is a quote of what it would cost at a body shop to get it done. What I paid for out of pocket was the parts and the paint.
Why, sir, wouldn't you bring me the actual cost of what it cost to fix the car?
I didn't have the bills at the time. It was short notice. I didn't care at the time, Your Honor. I didn't really save the bills there. I didn't plan on coming to court. I didn't think I was going to be in court today.
When did you get this?
When did I got that?
Yes.
3 days before I knew I was going to be in court.
Well, instead of put your hand down. Instead of getting this estimate for work that was never going to be done because according to you already did the work, right?
Correct.
So this is bogus.
It's not bogus.
This is bogus. So instead of wasting the time to take the car in to see what it would be to fix the car, which according to you already fixed, so it would be difficult for them to give you an estimate on fixing a car that was already fixed because you said you fixed it. Why didn't you, instead of getting this estimate, go back to the place where you bought the parts and say, I lost a copy of the bill. Can I please have a copy of the bill for the parts?
I could ask for the original copy. I could send them to you.
Why did you waste time getting this instead of getting the receipts for the actual work?
I have no answer for that, Your Honor.
Well, then you're not getting a thing. Strike it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,634. Your counterclaim is dismissed. You did a lot of fast talking, sir. Did not impress me. That's all. Step out.
Mark Windhausen says ex-girlfriend Lana Speakman owes for the money he paid towards a Dodge Durango. Lana claims Mark was stealing from their share to support his drug habit.
Mr. Windhausen, you and the defendant lived together for a period of time, and it is your claim that at the time she broke up with you and told you to leave, she kept your property. She kept the truck that you had been making payments on and some other personal property that you had purchased for the house.
Correct.
Ms. Speakman said everything is hers.
Yes.
When did you move in together?
About 6 of 04.
June of 04.
Right.
How old are you?
I'm 24.
How old are you?
34.
You have children?
No.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Windhausen?
I'm a welder.
How long have you been welding?
About a year and a half now.
Make good living?
Decent. It's fair.
Tell me what you make.
I'm about $14.50.
An hour?
An hour, yes.
How much did you make last year?
How much did I make last year? About $12,338.
You worked full-time?
Yes, I did work full-time. I got laid off in December of 05, and I was rehired back on, so I had it in February.
But other than that, you work continuously?
Correct.
And what did you do with your money?
What did I do with my money?
Why do you keep asking me a question? I know the question that I asked. What did you do with your money when you got your money, when you were living with Miss Speakman?
I cashed my checks at the U.S. Bank, and I went and paid it to, just gave her cash.
Well, how much cash did you give her?
Approximately about $340 per week.
It was different every week.
Tell me about this truck.
This truck, I needed a vehicle to get back and forth to work. I did not have one. I wasn't able to put one in my name because my credit wasn't the greatest. And at the time, I was working on getting a work permit to make a commute back and forth to work.
What did your bad credit have to do with getting a work permit, Mr. Wendhausen?
Because I wasn't able to put the truck in my name.
Did you have a driver's license?
I did not. I just had a work.
Well, that's an answer why you can't have a truck in your name, sir.
Correct.
So you were going to drive this truck despite the fact that you didn't have a license?
No, until I got my work permit.
Did you drive the truck without
I did,
a license?
Yes.
So Ms. Speakman put the truck in her name and allowed you to drive it without a license?
Correct.
Jan, down, I get to you. And who made the payments on the truck?
I did.
How much were the payments every month?
Approximately about $340 a month.
$340 a month.
Plus
It's exactly the same amount that you gave her. You said a week. That's a number you must like. You told me you gave her $340 a week when you cashed your paycheck, and now you tell me that your truck payment was $340.
That was excluding making the payments on the refrigerator and the stove and the bedroom set.
Just a second. How much was the truck payment?
About $340.
And how much did you used to give her every week from your paycheck?
Around $340, yes.
Wrong.
He's got it down, and he's not going to waver. And how did you make the truck payment?
Cash.
Now, because we're just dealing with the truck so far, when did you kick him out?
July 7th of '06.
Why?
Because I found out he was doing drugs. He actually, July 1st is actually when we broke up. He couldn't get a ride until July 7th. He stole $400 out of my purse, said he was going to the store to get ice, and didn't come back for like 12 hours because he was doing drugs.
What kind of drugs does he do?
Cocaine.
Have you ever seen him do cocaine?
No, I haven't. He told me.
What did he say?
A couple months prior, he took a lot of money. We had a joint checking account for a little while because I went to get money out and all the money was gone. Well, then I questioned him about it, and he finally told me that he was doing cocaine, that he had a drug problem, and then he didn't want to tell me what the drug was, and then he finally told me it was cocaine.
How much money did he take out of the joint account?
About $1,500.
Do you remember when?
It was March and April. He did it on 2 different occasions where he took hundreds of dollars out a couple times. I mean, hundreds, like $600 a night.
It's not true.
No?
No.
Don't do drugs.
No, I don't.
You willing to take a drug test?
I am willing, yes.
Willing to take a hair follicle test?
That's fine.
Right after court?
That's fine.
You understand that if you go for one of these tests, they will, and if it's positive, they won't let you be a welder. You understand that?
Correct.
You prepared to sign a release that the drug test results can be sent to your employer? Oh, is not an answer.
I have smoked weed, yes.
Weed
So-
we're not talking about, sir. We're talking cocaine.
All right.
Got me?
Yeah, I got you.
Perfect. If you have a problem and you're 24 years old, you better get rid of your problem. Do enough cocaine so you're going to have a brain like mush. You know, when you start up here, you can have a brain like mush. When you start over here, it's over very, very soon. Now, how could you take money out of a bank account?
It's my money, too.
Well, if you're putting in $300 a week to run a household, you have rent, you have food, you have gas, you have electric, you have all the other stuff. And was he giving you an extra $340 for the truck payment?
No, he wasn't. He gave me, his checks were different every week. So he gave, sometimes it was only $100. Sometimes he didn't give me any money at all.
Yeah, because if he's making $15 an hour, earning $12,000 a year just doesn't,
well, that was
doesn't make it.
The truck payment was $320, and it did come directly out of my bank account ever since I bought
Well,
the
it
truck.
may have come directly out of your bank account. That doesn't mean, quite frankly, Ms. Speakman, that he wasn't giving you money. My question is, was he giving you money earmarked for this car payment, or was he giving you a certain amount of money every week?
It was different amounts every week because, like I said, sometimes his checks were always different. Sometimes he would give me nothing. Sometimes he would give me $100. There was a couple times he probably gave me $300.
And what about the monthly truck payment?
What?
Did he give you money for the
Directly
monthly
for
truck
that?
payment?
No.
In cash is my question.
No.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious, how could she make the payment for a car payment, a truck payment, a house payment, and all the other utilities if I was not paying any money to that household?
She didn't say you weren't paying any money.
But how could she afford
I make
those
a lot
vehicles?
more money than he does.
What kind of work do you do, Ms. Speakman?
I work at a factory.
And how much do you earn an hour?
$22 an hour.
And how much did you earn last year?
$50,000.
And you were earning $15 an hour, which is, you know, only a third less, and you only made $12,338, sir. That figure that you told me specifically, $12,338, which is what you said you earned last year, only 2 months you were out of work. Ms. Speakman.
Yes.
What did you do with the truck?
I still have the truck. I'm still making payments on the truck.
What are you going to do with the truck?
I'm probably going to keep it.
Now, if Mr. Wendhausen is prepared to get a loan for $5,000 in his name, are you prepared to give him the truck?
No.
Sure. Sure you are. Listen to me, Mr. Wendhausen. You come back to me with a fully committed loan in your name for $5,000, and I will direct Ms. Speakman to turn over the truck to you. Do you understand?
I do.
But she certainly doesn't want to give you a truck that's in her name, and she's certainly not going to give you the value of it or what you claim to put in, because you can't prove what you put in to the truck unless you have canceled checks.
No, I paid everything cash.
Cash.
Yes.
Right. So go get yourself a loan, and then Miss Speakman is going to turn over the truck to you. You think that's going to happen, Miss Speakman?
I don't think he'll be able to get a loan.
Correct. Correct. But if he can.
But what about I paid it, like for the whole year that he hasn't been there?
It was sort of a fluid situation. Right. But I certainly don't think that you ought to get stuck with this truck and turn it over to him. And I certainly don't believe that he, each and every month, paid you his portion of the expenses as well as the $340 for the truck, because he didn't make that much money.
Right.
Now, what other property do you claim, sir, is yours that she kept when you
I have
moved
a
out?
GE arranged stove that I
When
purchased.
did you purchase that, sir?
I purchased it in about 11:05.
And you moved out in?
7/06.
And did you eat while you were there?
I did, yes.
And did you use the stove?
I only had it for about a month or two before I moved out.
Show me proof that you purchased it.
He just said we got the stove in November and he moved out in July. So
I got it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I see it's purchased by you, Mark Wendhausen.
Right.
Show me how you paid for it.
I paid cash.
I have a check.
Can I see it, please?
These are the 2 payments I made. These are the 4 payments that were made total.
Okay. She's got proof of the payments, sir.
Proof of the payments that I paid?
Well, show me your payments. It doesn't say that this was paid in cash.
I paid those payments, ma'am.
To whom?
To Turner Electric.
Show
in
me.
Cash. Don't you see there's cash? She writes checks. I pay cash.
What else, Mr. Wendhausen?
I also have receipts here for refrigerator.
When you moved into the house, Mr. Wendhausen, was there a refrigerator in the house?
Yes. Can you please tell me where all my money was going?
All your $12,000?
Well, I lived there for two and a half years.
All your $12,000?
His money was going up his nose. Mine
Just a
was
second.
paying the bill.
Mr. Wendhausen, I don't think that you understand, sir. That barely supports a person. You don't get it.
I'm not getting it. I'm making payments that, you know.
Show me that you're still making payments.
I'm done. Those are the receipts. That's paid off.
And you paid for it, and you used the refrigerator, and you used the stove while you were in her house?
Yeah, it's my
Goodbye,
name.
Mr. Wendhausen.
Do you think I could take
I think you have a problem, and I think that you really have to take care of your problem. If you manage to secure a loan for the truck, I am going to direct Ms. Speakman to turn the truck over to you. We will recalendar this case as soon as the clerk receives indication that you've received a loan, and I will direct this truck that you want to be turned over to you. Do you understand?
Okay, I do, but...
Good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Alice Ramos is suing neighbor D'Angelo Trent for damages to her car. Alice says D'Angelo's son, 9-year-old D'Angelo Jr., crashed into her vehicle with his bike.
Mrs. Ramos, it is your complaint that this little boy right over here was on his bicycle, fell off of his bicycle, and scratched your car. You want his father to pay for the scratch on the car. Is that right? And Mr. Trent's chance. When did this happen?
June 19th of 2004.
Were you at home at the time?
Yes, it was a Saturday. We had had a yard sale at my residence, and this child here had been riding his bicycle the better part of the day, up and down.
What's your name?
D'Angelo Trent Jr.
D'Angelo?
Yes.
Did you know him before?
I've seen him
June
in the
19th?
neighborhood, but I didn't know whose child he was.
But you had seen him before?
Oh, yes.
For how long?
He's lived in our neighborhood as long as I can recall.
So you know him. This is
Right.
the child who you hadn't seen 100 times before.
Oh, definitely.
Alice Ramos says neighbor 9-year-old D'Angelo Trent Jr. damaged her car when he crashed his bicycle. D'Angelo's father, D'Angelo Sr., claims his son doesn't own a bike.
So what did you see when he fell off the bike?
He bumped into the bumper of my car, and he fell off his bicycle. At that point, I was not concerned about my car. Myself, my nephew Andrew, and my niece all ran out to the street to see if he was okay. He seemed okay, but he fell awfully hard for how quickly he jumped back up.
And subsequently you found a scratch on your car?
When we first checked, we saw what looked like rubber scraping on the bumper of the car. And I told the little boy, before he took off, I told him, that's okay, this can be buffed out, you can go. So he jumped on his bike and he took off, more scared than hurt, I think. And 10 minutes later, he comes back with another young man on the handlebars. And he and his friend got off, and he started to show the friend what he had done. Well, unbeknownst to us, we were more concerned in the beginning about his welfare. We didn't really inspect the car. I saw the rubber scrapes on the bumper. But he's showing him another area of the car which we had not seen. And there is a scrape on the trunk.
You have a picture of it?
No, I don't.
Why don't you have a picture of it?
As I go on to the story, you'll see why.
Okay.
There was a good gash to where the whole paint and primer, everything came off right down to the metal. And it was right at the height about where the handlebars are.
So what did you do next?
I said, did you do this with your bike? And he said, he nodded his head yes. I said, well, then you can't leave. I need to talk to you. He looked at me wide-eyed, scared, started to cry, jumped back on his bike, and took off, and left his little friend there. I asked his friend, do you know who this little boy is? I've seen him in the neighborhood many times, but I don't know who he is. And he says, yes, that's D'Angelo's son. And I said, D'Angelo, I know D'Angelo. I've known D'Angelo, the father, since he was knee-high to a grasshopper, since he grew up in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, can you take me to his house? So he walked.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Ms. Ramos, did Mr. D'Angelo say that he would take care of the problem?
Absolutely.
And that's why you had it fixed and you didn't take a picture? I'm just running ahead because that sounds like what you're going to tell me.
Yeah, I didn't take a picture because I had to call the police because we could not locate him, the father.
Why?
Because there was no one at the house. The house was all opened up, windows, doors, everything was opened up at the house. There was nobody there.
Okay, so when the police came, he said he would fix...
He told the police officers he would take care of it between me and him.
Okay, stop. And you had it fixed. How much did it cost you to have it fixed?
$300.
You have a receipt?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. You weren't there.
I wasn't there.
He was there.
He was there.
How long have you known Mrs. Ramos?
22 years.
She a nice lady?
Nice lady.
Seems like a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Seems like a caring lady. Is concerned about your son?
Right.
More concerned about your son than her car?
Right.
Why don't you pay her the $300?
Because my son doesn't own a bike. He was on the peg.
He was riding a bike that day. Now, Mr. Trent, you seem like an intelligent man, sir.
I am.
If you had to make a choice as to whether Mrs. Ramos or your 9-year-old son was telling you the truth, who would you pick? Who would you pick, sir? I haven't even spoken to him. I know who I would pick.
I know the child that was riding the bike, and I know he's nowhere in court. So I don't know why my son's here.
You weren't there. Mrs. Ramos, who you've known for 22 years,
right,
says that your son was the one who was riding the bike. You weren't home. So I'm going to go back to my original question. If you had to make a choice as to whether your 9-year-old son, D'Angelo, was telling the truth or Mrs. Ramos was telling the truth, who would you pick?
I would pick my son, of course.
Well, then you would pick wrong. Your son, and you weren't there, was riding the bike. Look at me, D'Angelo. Isn't that right?
No.
Baloney.
Judge, then you ask her if there were two people there, there was a person riding and he was on the pegs.
No.
Please ask her.
She said he was riding the bike. Is that what you told me?
That's right.
Was there 2 children there?
No. When the incident happened, there was only 1 child on the bike.
When he came back, she said there were 2 people. He was riding and there was another child on the handlebars. And then when she went out there and confronted them, he got scared and left the other kid there. And if he's not telling you that story,
the other child
I
told me
take
the
him out to
story.
the barn. Judgment to the plaintiff in the amount of $300. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Gazina Jacobs is suing her former tenants, Benjamin Nelson and his girlfriend Vanessa Enghorn, for rent, utility bills, and for severely damaging her rental property.
Ms. Jacobs, you rented a unit that you had, apartment,
Yes.
to the defendants. They were referred to you by a neighbor. According to your complaint, you had to evict them. They owed you rent. You want your rent. You want the damage that they did to your apartment, which you say was substantial. Mr. Nelson and Ms. Eichhorn say you owe them money. You kept their security deposit. They did not cause any damage to the unit. They were current in their rent until you shut off their electricity and their power, and they have a counterclaim. What kind of work do you do, Mr. Nelson?
I'm a handyman, mechanic, painter. I do a lot of things.
Do you work for anybody or you work for yourself?
I work for myself.
And what do you do?
I'm a hostess.
It's just the 2 of you in the
Yes.
unit? And how much was the rent?
$9.60 a month plus electric and gas.
Which you were supposed to pay for yourself.
Yes.
When did you move in?
I believe it was September of '06.
When did they move in?
They moved in at the end of January of '07, and the lease agreement started 1st of February of '07.
I don't think that's right. We
Can I
lived
see
there
the
longer
lease,
than that.
please?
I have the lease agreement.
Are you on any prescribed medication, Mr. Nelson?
No.
You moved in February of '07, sir, not in September of '06. Okay. So, first let's start with the question of utilities. According to your answer, you say she agreed to rent us the unit and we signed the lease for $9.60 a month, including utilities. Now you say you were supposed to pay your own utilities.
Electric and gas, yes.
You were supposed to pay your own utilities. Did you put them in your name?
Right before we got
Eventually
evicted.
we had to.
What do you mean eventually you had to? You had to when you moved in February.
Well, they were in her name up until then because it was part of the agreement that our utilities would be included in the $9.60 rent.
Not according to him.
According to this evidence in these papers, that's what it was. It was in her name for a long time.
Well, it was, of course. It had to be in somebody's name.
Yes, and until she got it, she turned it off without notice.
Just a second. Were you supposed to pay the utilities?
Yes.
Why didn't you put the utilities in your name starting in February?
Because that wasn't part of the agreement that we had.
Of course it was.
We didn't have the money at the time,
That may be an answer.
so we agreed to do it when we had the money.
Just a second. When did you have the money?
I believe April or May.
By April, she had already turned off the utilities.
That's when we got it in our name.
Because you didn't pay them. When did you move out?
We moved out around the beginning of June, around June 10th.
June 9th was our last day.
So you owe her rent for February, March, April, May, and June. 5 months.
No,
That is not true.
We've paid her up until like the last 2 months before we moved out.
I'm telling you that that's what you owe her.
Okay.
Show me that you paid 5 months' rent. If you didn't give her rent for 5 months, tell me when you stopped paying her rent.
I always brought her cash. I stopped paying her rent on about end of April. I stopped paying rent because I didn't have the money because I lost my job.
All right, fine. So far, you owe her $1,150 in rent. And you didn't pay the utilities for February, March, and April. I assume that they paid them in May because then they had to put them in their own name. At least
Yes,
you were off the
exactly.
hook. So how much do they owe you for utilities?
Utilities is, I got the receipts right here, $767.69.
Now, you have pictures of the damage to the apartment?
I sure do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
There's several sets of pictures. I also have a list from the repair person and the checks that I did pay a person to repair the $4,000 worth of damages.
How did these holes get in the wall?
That was a prior roommate.
Whose roommate?
Ours. A bad selection of a roommate.
Well, you owe her for this damage.
Yes, I believe we do. We're responsible because
You are.
it's
It's your
my
roommate. Go find your roommate.
I'm putting in a small claim right now.
Go ahead.
That master bedroom, I know it was their bedroom, and right below those holes was their mattress. So, yeah, you can see her head there,
Your
right
Honor,
where he...
that is untrue. She's made a lot of allegations about us, about him doing bad things to hurt me, a lot of why reason why those holes are in our walls. Is
When
from
was the
him
last time
beating
the
me.
police were called to any residence where you have ever lived for domestic violence?
Never. Just this once. If she'd called.
Just a second. When in any of your residences were the police called on a complaint of domestic violence?
None that we know of.
She just said once.
Well,
No,
we
I said-
believe that's what she called about.
Yeah,
Because they showed up, but nothing was ever done about it because nothing was wrong.
They showed up at the residence because they were looking for him. Because
This
he was
apartment is a pigsty. Don't you clean?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, we had a roommate that came in while we were at work and damaged a lot of
It's
stuff.
filthy. That doesn't happen from a messy roommate. That happens from people who live like pigs.
I don't live like a pig, Your Honor.
Well, you did. I
had to
never
go
saw
through-
a
I had
place
to
so
go
filthy.
through- I had to go through my house in 2 days' time, and I had to pretty much tear everything apart that I had and find what was sentimental to me, pack it up, and then start throwing a lot of my things away.
Should have paid your rent.
Your Honor.
You should have paid your rent. That's what happens when you don't pay rent or utilities.
We had agreed to start paying it off. We had actually started paying it off. And
Listen, she's not your mother.
I know.
She's your landlord. The first thing that you did was you moved into the apartment. You were supposed to put the utilities in your name. You didn't. Then you have a counterclaim that she had no right to turn off the utilities because she got tired of paying $767 for your utilities. Well, then you had no choice, but you put them in your name. At least she's off the hook. I don't know whether you stiffed the utility company or not. I assume you did. Now, then you leave an apartment like a pigsty and you blame it on a roommate. Well, so far it's everybody's fault but yours. Everybody else is wrong. She's wrong.
I'm taking responsibility since it was my roommate.
I really think it was your roommate, sir.
We've had...
I don't necessarily think it was your roommate. I don't believe necessarily it was your roommate just because you say it. Do you understand?
Oh, I understand.
Good. I'm glad you do. Okay, so far you owe her $19.17 just for your rent and the utilities.
And that's the detailed list of what was repaired.
Nothing was repaired, Your Honor, except for the holes in the walls because I live right next to that place, and so does my neighbor, and she happens to walk by and she sees our things are still being used. A refrigerator that she said was damaged that we need to pay for to replace, still being used. It was like that before we moved in.
Show them these pictures, please.
The refrigerator was not repaired, and the refrigerator I'm not suing for. I'm just suing for the repairs Mr. Bean did on my rental unit.
Your Honor, I was going through all these items. That's why it looks like a pigsty like this.
Just take a look at the toilet. The toilet isn't going through the items. That toilet hasn't been cleaned, it looks like, in 6 months. You owe $5,000 for your cleanup, for your rent, and for your utilities. Now, give me 30 seconds or less on your counterclaim. Let's go!
We don't believe we owe her because nothing was fixed before we even moved in.
Forget it. Next.
All of our stuff that was in the house, she told us we would have 2 days and we had
Why
nowhere to
didn't
go.
you get your stuff out?
We stayed up all night trying to get our stuff out.
We had
but
2
we had a
days
house
time
full of
to do
stuff,
it.
so we got
Did
out
you
what
pay
we
rent
could.
in June?
I was giving her a couple hundred every
Did you
week.
pay rent in June?
Not in full, no.
Counterclaim's dismissed. You owe $5,000. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Brandy McCant says, Gentlemen's Club owner Joe Meridian and graphic designer Farron Young used a picture of her on a club flyer without her permission.
Miss McCants, your claim is that you went to a photographer and had some photos taken of you.
Yes.
And those photographs were subsequently used without your permission by a gentleman's club. Who is representing the gentleman's club?
I am, Judge.
And your name is?
Joe Meridian.
For flyers to promote the club, and it was used in such a way as to depict you as a pole dancer. You were a college student, and you gave no permission to Mr. Meridian or anyone else to use the photographs for those purposes. Mr. Young is a graphic designer who somehow got a hold of those pictures on the internet and created the flyer that Mr. Meridian used. So you're suing both of them.
Yes, I am.
Mr. Young says he got the photographs from the internet, from what he believed was a free site where anybody could take pictures and use them for commercial purposes. Mr. Meridian says he's not responsible because he didn't prepare the flyer, and all he did was commission somebody to do it, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, unfortunately for you, Mr. Meridian, that defense for this flyer won't fly, because the buck ultimately stops in the place where, if it was used improperly, it was used commercially for you, and you benefited from that photograph. So if I find that that happened without the plaintiff's permission, then you are responsible. Now, you have the right to sue those people that you think are responsible for getting you in hot water, and that would be somebody who you say created this flyer, but ultimately you're responsible. Okay, let's go back. When did you take these photographs and why?
These photographs were taken in March of 2008, and I did them with a photographer, David Garnes, as a test shoot.
Do you have pictures? Do you have the test shoot photographs?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at them.
Okay.
So they are provocative pictures, right? Now you can return them. And let me see the site, Mr. Young, where you got these pictures from.
Shows a disclaimer also.
Right
A disclaimer on the website, Your Honor.
Can you show me where you say that this is a disclaimer, you can use these for free?
Well, he said disclaimer.
No.
Just showing
I want you to come up here and point out to me, or take this pen and point out to me here where it says, not that that's dispositive necessarily, but point out where it says that you can use these for free.
Can I elaborate?
No, I want to look where Mr. Meridian says that he thinks you can use them for free.
I didn't say for free, Your Honor. I just said disclaimer for using the photos. It says use for your own projects.
Yes, it says that you can use them for your own projects. It doesn't say you can use them for free.
Exactly, that's what I said I wanted to do.
Go ahead.
Okay, see, when you go to official PSDs, you can log in, right? And then you buy pictures that are exclusive. Now, the website also have a public domain.
You use this picture in creating what flyer, sir? I want to see the flyer that you created.
And she has the flyer right there.
We discontinued the flyer, Your Honor.
Of course.
We also changed the name of the club.
Oh, well, it's exactly the same picture, madam. It's exactly the same picture. They didn't take your head and put it on somebody else's body,
Your
or your
Honor.
body
Not
and
at
put it
all.
on. This is the exact same picture that you took.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah.
Quiet. Correct?
That's the photo that I took.
That's the photograph that you took. Okay. Not difficult. You cannot use her pictures for commercial purposes without either getting her permission or paying her. Do you understand? I'm going to say it again. You cannot use her picture, her likeness, for your commercial purposes without either getting a waiver from her or permission or paying her.
Well, how much do we have to pay her?
Right. Today, how much do you have to pay her today? $5,000. That's what you have to pay her today.
But
just a second.
Okay.
Because if she took these pictures for her own purposes and she didn't give you permission to use them, it would be no different from you going on your television set and taking a picture of me. And then, because I'm out there, I'm free, right? I'm free.
Sure.
You can go and take a picture of me. You can take a picture of me. I'm walking in the street. You can take a picture of me. Somebody takes a picture of me and posts it on their website, and it's free. He takes a picture of me. You're the photographer, right?
Correct.
He takes a picture of me and posts it on his website. We're going to make this easy. He takes a picture of me in the street, posts it on his website. Don't look confused, sir. We're getting there.
I'm an educated man.
We're
I
getting
understand
there.
what you're saying.
Don't look confused. We're getting there.
I got you.
Takes a picture of me, posts it on his website. Your graphic designer says, I know how we could get a whole bunch of people in our gentleman's club. I'm going to take Judge Judy's somebody else's body, if you really want to get a customer, and put her around a pole. Now, shh, the picture is free. It's up there. He's posted my picture. Do you think that you have the right to use my image to get people to come into your club without my permission and without paying me?
See,
the answer is you do not.
But that's different.
No, sir. It's not different, Mr. Young. It's exactly the same. Now, let's say that there's a disclaimer on here.
Okay.
Let's say that it says free, you can use it free, and all these people are 21 years or older. And you say, oh, that's fine. I can use these, and they're all 21 years and older. And one of them turns out to be 14.
Oh.
Listen to me. One of them turns out to be 14. And you make her into a pole dancer, and you make flyers of her. Do you know where you're going to find yourself? In federal prison. And your defense of, I didn't know she was 14, she looked 21, they're going to say to you, that doesn't matter. That's kiddie porn. And you can't accept somebody else's statement here that it's free, just like if you meet a girl at a bar and you go home with her and have sex with her, and she turns out to be 13, and she's dressed like a 35-year-old, and they arrest you for statutory rape, you can't say to them, she told me she was 20, and she looked like 20, I didn't know. You know where you find yourself? In federal prison. Now, I want you to listen to me very carefully. You cannot use somebody else's likeness for your commercial purposes without getting a waiver from them and without paying them if they want to be compensated. Do you get it? Don't argue. Do you get it?
Get it? I don't agree with it.
Then move to Namibia or someplace else.
Namibia.
I don't care where you move to. In this country, you cannot exploit someone.
Well, Your Honor.
Listen to me. You cannot exploit someone.
She exploited herself by putting herself all over the internet in a bikini.
No, my dear.
If she didn't want
my dear,
herself-
she didn't do that.
What were those shots for, Your Honor?
Listen to me. He did that.
Then
He did that.
she should be suing her photographer
Just
then.
a second. You used it for commercial purposes.
I didn't use it.
Yes, you did.
I didn't pay this gentleman.
Listen to me. You used it for your own commercial purposes. If you think that you have the right to implead, which is sue the people who got you in trouble, do it.
All I'm saying is that...
Just a second. I'm not talking to you. Do it. But you used the flyers, you generated income from the flyers, and you are responsible for ensuring that anybody whose image you use, you have permission to use that image by either consent or a contract that pays them money. That's your responsibility. That's the buck stops. Now, you could say, listen, I was misled by somebody, so I'm going to sue them. You have the right to do that. Right now, the two of you are going to pay her $5,000. Now you can sit down. Now, you're the plaintiff.
Yes, I am.
Sit. Now you can stand back up again. Has he been sworn?
They've all been sworn.
All right, you're the photographer.
Yes, I am.
You're suing them.
I'm suing Farron
You're suing for what?
for using my picture for
That's
commercial
too bad. For using the picture without your permission? That would come under the category of too bad. Did you have her permission to post her picture on the internet?
Yes, I did.
Let me see it.
I don't have it.
That's too bad that you don't have it. Where'd you think you were coming to today? A tea dance?
No, I wanted to tell you.
Did you think you were coming to a tea dance?
No, I didn't.
Then you bring me her permission and her consent to put her picture up on the internet.
Well, she is my witness. Can she?
No,
Okay.
I want to see it because right now there could be a conspiracy between the two of you to get you another $5,000, which I'm not going to tolerate. Quiet!
Okay.
Do you understand that, sir?
I do understand that, man.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, you had no right to put her picture up on the internet. So you're not going to get compensated diddly. You got it?
Okay.
Goodbye.
26-year-old Sarah Blount is suing her former friend, Felicia Ale, for losing her backpack. Sarah claims Felicia gave the backpack to a stranger.
Miss Blount, you are suing the defendant for a backpack and its contents.
Yes, Your Honor.
Lots of expensive goodies in this backpack that you had left in her car.
Yes.
The defendant has a rather interesting defense, which I'm going to allow her to explain to Officer Byrd here, because he's going to be fascinated with the defense. How did you know each other?
We're acquaintances, former co-workers. We've known each other for about a year, and we had both been at the same festival.
What kind of festival was it?
It was a music festival.
When?
It was the weekend ending on Sunday, June 26th.
What were you doing there?
I was working. I have a second job. I was working for the brewery there, and so I'd been working every day and camping at night. And
the defendant, what were you doing there?
I was working for the promoter of the festival. I've worked for him for the past 3 years. I'm in charge of ticket sales, handling cash for the festival.
Good. So you saw each other there during the weekend, and
Yes.
according to what I read in your complaint, Miss Blount, the defendant was going to give you a ride home.
Yes, she had offered on the last day on Sunday. She said, "How are you getting home?" I said, "I'm not sure yet." I knew.
Where do you live?
We both live in Portland. Maybe 45-minute drive from
where
the
festival was held.
Yes.
Okay. So she said, "How are you going to get home?"
Yes, and she said, "I'll give you a ride home. Here are my keys. Put your pack in my car." I want to emphasize before anything else that this pack was full of everything I needed for 4 days on cold nights in Oregon. I work at a camping outdoor store. It wasn't cheap, shoddy merchandise. It was very nice. It was several of the items were brand new.
Okay.
A little while later, it started raining. Felicia approached me, said, "You know what? I'm going to go home a little early. I can't give you a ride home." So I said, "Well, let me go out of your car now." She goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. At 5:30, we will meet." We made plans to meet on the road where the road forks on her way out en route to the exit.
And what time were you going to leave?
I was working that evening, so I wasn't leaving until later in the evening.
Okay, and you were going to leave at 5:30.
I had approached Sarah in the beer garden where she was working and said that it was raining and I wasn't going to stay until the festival was over.
So you were leaving early. You were
So I was going to
5:30.
leave early. So I asked her what would be a good time to meet. We both agreed that 5:30 would be a good time. That was a few hours before the meeting time is when I had approached her.
Fine. So what happened?
So she said, "Let's meet where the road forks and we'll meet at my car. If I'm not there, go up to the parking lot," which I knew where that was because I had gone to put my pack in her car at the parking lot. So at 5:30 on the dot, I stopped what I was doing and I went to the road. I couldn't find her. I couldn't see where she was, so I went up to the parking lot. I couldn't see her car there. I'm looking for her car, which is a station wagon. It's a white wagon. I look up and down. I walk up and down the road for approximately 15 minutes, thinking, you know what? I have to get back to work. I don't see her. So I go back to work. I had no cell phone at the time because it was in the pack, and nobody's cell phone had any reception at the point, so I couldn't get a hold of her immediately. So I waited until I'd got another ride later that evening, and I called her, I think, 2 times, and didn't hear any response until the following morning.
Okay. What happened, Miss Ale?
I went to my car. I waited at my car till about 5:33 is when I got in my car. I got to the corner at 5:36 and waited for a few minutes, and I didn't see Sarah. So when I had gone to speak with her earlier at the beer garden, she had expressed to me that she needed her pack. So I didn't want to leave the festival with her backpack, knowing that she needed it. The place where I was a one-way out road, and I was blocking the exit to leave the festival. So I couldn't wait there. There happened to be a gentleman sitting in a chair who was a staff member He had a staff shirt on, sitting in his chair, and I told him what was going on, that I was supposed to meet this woman to give her backpack there. She wasn't there. Would it be all right if I left it with him? He was...
You hear those groans?
He was a staff member. He was a staff member. He was going to be there for the next hour and a half. She wasn't there, and she'd told me she needed her bag. I had no way of getting a hold of her, so I figured the best thing to do is to leave it in the exact spot where we're supposed to meet. It's a visible spot, and he was going to be there for the next hour and a half. I told him her name, who she worked for, and he said, "Does she know to meet you here?" And I said, "Yes, but it's 5:36, and it's, you know, by this point I had been there a couple of minutes. There were cars behind me trying to leave, and I had to go."
Got it?
All right, can I say, I had no idea I was looking for a man, a stranger.
The law is pretty clear. You do not owe her extraordinary care in taking care of this backpack, which you gratuitously said you can put in my car. You owe her what I perceive to be ordinary care. The question is, did you exercise ordinary care in first waiting according to you, giving you every possible benefit of the doubt, 6 minutes beyond the 5:30, 6 minutes, not a half hour, not 40 minutes, not an hour, 6 minutes beyond which you claim she was late. That's giving you every benefit of the doubt. Let's say your watch might have been off a minute or two.
Okay.
Okay? Did you exercise ordinary care in turning this backpack over to someone that, despite the fact that you say he was a staff member because you didn't know, he didn't know her, he didn't know what she looked like, she didn't know him, you didn't get a telephone number, you didn't ask him for any identification, you could have said, "Listen, I want to give this to you, but do you have your ID on it so I can take down your name and your phone number in case you don't hook up with us so that she can get in touch with you?" Nothing. You take the backpack and you say, "Here, take it, give it to her. She's supposed to be at 5:30. She's not here at 5:30. It's no longer my responsibility." The law doesn't give you that right, Ms. Ale. The law says you have to exercise ordinary care. And unless you did that, unless you got this man's identification information, his telephone number, a place where he could be contacted so that in case that they couldn't get together, she would have some way of contacting him, not just a man who was wearing a shirt that indicated he worked there.
Well, I had no way of contacting her.
You did not exercise ordinary care. He added up the things in the backpack?
Yes.
What did it come to?
$978.
Can I see the bills, please?
Okay, I have receipts from my place of employment where
Can
I
I
bought
see
them.
it, please?
Your Honor, may I say something?
Yes.
The previous place where we both worked, we had special deals that we were able to purchase from there. We sold a lot of high-end camping items. We also returned a lot of them as well, and were able to resell those items. Employees were able to go to those sales for employees only the night before they were open to the public and purchase those items for extremely discountable prices.
I have claimed nothing from those purchases.
So all that I want to say is that I don't know what was in the backpack. The backpack was put in my car. I took the backpack out of my car, but we were able to purchase items for an extremely discounted
And that's
rate.
irrelevant in this case because...
Well, just a second.
Okay.
It's not irrelevant if that's not what you paid for them.
Exactly.
Okay, and what you're testifying to under oath is that you paid $978 for these items. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, and I have receipts for the biggest ticket items.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $978. That's all.
Store owner Daniel Alvarez is suing his customer, Carmen Burgos, for cashing a counterfeit check at his store. Carmen says she was the victim of an internet scam.
Mr. Alvarez, what kind of store do you have, sir?
I have a general store. We sell music, we cash checks, we sell satellite. It's a little bit of everything.
The defendant was a customer of yours?
A regular customer. She had been there at least 4 or 5 occasions cashing checks.
And you charge a fee for that?
Yes, we do.
According to your complaint, sir, she came in with a check which you cashed for her.
Correct.
And it turned out to be a bad check.
Yes.
And your bank withdrew the money from your account, You want her to compensate you for the check.
That is correct.
Ms. Burgos says it was a bad check. She was conned with this check, and she's sorry that you're out the money, but it's not her fault. It's the fault of the people who scammed her. That's her defense. Is that correct?
Yes,
Ms.
Your
Burgos?
Honor. I shouldn't
So
be
I want
held
you to
liable
tell
for it.
What?
I shouldn't be held liable for it because I had
Ms.
the
Burgos.
evidence. Yes.
Let's start from the beginning. Where did you get this check from?
It was mailed to me.
From an employer?
No, I'm always on the computer and I'm always filling out sweepstakes and filling out numbers for lotto and that. So when I received the check...
So you received the check because you thought you won a prize?
Yes, correct.
But she didn't tell me that, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
Don't interrupt her.
I'm sorry.
Your Honor, he wasn't there at the moment.
Listen to me.
Yes.
You got a check in the mail and you didn't know where it came from.
Correct. Yes, I thought
so
it was
you thought
a
maybe
sweepstakes.
that you had played around with on the computer?
Yes, correct.
You have a copy of the letter?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
Well, I have a copy because I gave Mr. Alvarez the original and the envelope that it came in.
Shh. Mr. Alvarez, I don't want you to interrupt her.
That's the original.
That is the original.
Cool.
And I also gave him the envelope it came in.
Now, this letter says that you won the North American Ballot Sweepstakes.
Correct.
And it tells you to call Debbie Baum in Canada.
Yes, Your Honor, and that's who I called.
Just for my own information, when you called her, what is it that you claim she said to you?
Well, I called her because at first I
Joe, tell me. Just answer my question.
I asked her about that I had received a check for a sweepstake for the sum of $2,900. And she told me yes, and I told her what it says here for processing. She goes, oh, no, that's no problem. You could go ahead and change. That's part of what you have won. There's 72 people that are in with it.
I read the letter. There's 72 people that are going to share in $1.8 million.
Right, and that's just the beginning of it, so you could go ahead and cash it.
Cash
so
it.
that's right.
Fine.
I went to
Do you have
Mr.
a copy of the check?
Yes, I have
I'd
the
like
original.
to see it. Oh, you have the original?
Yes.
Love
the bank
to see
returned it to me.
Love to see it. Shh. So you took the check into him?
Yes, correct.
To cash?
Yes. Like I've taken other checks.
State Employees Credit Union of Maryland, Inc. Well, I have to tell you, this certainly looks like, to my untrained eye, an official kind of check.
Correct. That's why I went to him and I cashed it.
Miss Burgos, I got it. You thought you woke up and it was your lucky day?
Yes, correct.
Bird, take a look at this. An interesting looking check? Right?
Wow. It even says official check.
It even says
Correct.
official
That's
check.
why I never-
And, just a minute, and they don't even ask you to do anything, like
Correct.
send them
That's
back
why-
half in this letter.
That's why I was like...
Don't, I'm speaking, don't bother me. They don't even ask you to send back half. You know, sometimes say, send us $500 as a processing fee, and they just said, here's your $2,900.
Does it the back?
Yeah, she signed it, and it came back that it was suspected counterfeit. In any event, you gave her the money.
Yes, I did.
You have proof of that?
Just from the bank when they took the money out because...
I'd like to see it. Now, when you were notified by the bank,
Right.
yeah, they charged your account for $2,950.
Correct.
Okay. Now, when did you cash the check for her? On what date?
Around the 14th of November.
And the bank returned the check to you when?
They didn't return it until the 20th or 21st, but they notified me 2 days later. First
So
they
on the
notified me.
16th.
Correct.
And when did you
I'm sorry, Your Honor,
notify?
it was after that.
Stop talking out! This is not a tea party! Now, when did you notify Miss Burgos?
That same day.
On the 16th,
exactly.
2 days later.
Exactly.
How did you notify her?
I called her son-in-law because I know her son-in-law very well, and I called him up and I asked him to bring her over.
And when did he bring her over?
That same day.
On the 16th?
Exactly.
Okay, now tell me on the 16th what you said to her. And what she
I
said
told
to
her, Miss Burgos, this check has returned counterfeit from the bank.
And she said to you?
I didn't know, and she produced this letter.
Good.
Correct. I said I
Just-
didn't
just-
know.
So why didn't you return the money to him?
At the moment, I didn't have the money. I had paid some of debts that I had.
Just
So
a second. What difference does that make to him? Put your hand down. First of all, it's 2 days later.
It's not 2 days later, Your Honor. It was more than 2 days
How
later.
many days?
It was about 4 or 5 days later.
4 days. Show me what debts you paid.
Well, I had some medical bills that I had to pay, so I went
Just a
ahead.
second. So So you paid your medical bills. Medical
I was
bills.
like-
What else? What else did you
paid
pay?
my electric bill, my phone bill, all my bills, and I
Now,
had
let me
a
ask
few-
you this question, Ms. Burgos. Before you came into this cash windfall, how did you pay your electric bill?
Well, I would pay it monthly.
From what?
From what I receive, and also
What do you
my
mean from what you
children's-
receive? I don't understand that statement. Do you
Well,
work?
I get a Social Security check every month.
For what?
For disability.
What's the nature of your disability?
For asthma, arthritis.
You have asthma and arthritis and you can't work?
No.
I know a lot of people who have asthma and arthritis who can work just fine.
I had problems. I was diagnosed with disability. So I...
Wait, just a second. When were you diagnosed with a disability from asthma and arthritis?
2 years ago.
Ms. Burgos, I'm believing less and less of what you tell me, madam, but I will tell you this. If you paid your bills, which you are responsible for paying, your medical bills, your electric bill, your phone bill, and I don't care what other kind of bills you paid, allegedly, and I know you're lying. Listen to me, and I know you're lying anyway.
No, I bought
Listen
a few
to me.
Christmas
Listen to me
presents,
very
yes.
carefully, and I know you're lying anyway. Then you have to pay him back the money.
Correct.
You paid your bills. You paid your bills. You're a scammer.
She told me
Let me
right
ask you this question. Who do you live with?
I live with my son and my daughter.
How old are they?
My daughter's 22 and my son is 19.
And what does your daughter do for a living?
She works. And my son
And your
also.
son?
He works.
Works.
They're the ones that help me with all the bills.
Because you don't work?
Yes.
Because of your asthma?
Yes.
She didn't tell me that. That day when she came in, she told me that she had only spent about $500 to $700
No, I told you that's
of
what
the
I
money.
Miss Burgos!
$500
Miss
to
Burgos!
I
$700.
asked her specifically.
That's what I told him I had.
Did you give it to him?
No. He told me...
Shh. So why did you spend that money instead of giving it back to him?
Well, I didn't have it on me at that time.
Why didn't you go home and get it?
The gentleman told me, Mr. Alvarez told me that he was going to send that letter, the letter from that they had
That is
received
not
to
true.
the bank. Yes, it is, Mr. Alvarez.
Just
that
a second.
he was going
So
to take
what?
that
If
letter
there's a
to the
question,
bank.
listen to me. If there's a question, why didn't you say, listen, if there's a question and if this check was bad, I don't want Mr. Alvarez to be out the rest of this money. I'm going to hold what I haven't spent and give it to him if he's out of pocket.
Well, I had held it. I had it.
So
and
why
when-
didn't you give it to him?
Because when I spoke to Mr. Alvarez on the phone, I told him I have the $500. He says, no, I want all the money. That's what he said.
That is
and I
true?
says, well, I don't have all the money at the moment, okay? I could give you at least $500 at a time. He said, no, I want all the money at the same
You want to know
time.
something? You're a scammer.
It was-
You've been scamming
no.
Social Security in all probability for the
No,
last
I
2
haven't.
years.
I
I don't know
haven't.
how you got Social Security disability. How old are you?
I'm 47.
47. I know people who are 67 with asthma, they work.
No, I am disabled.
You must have had a
It was-
really, really fine lawyer. You owe him $2,950, Miss Burgos. You were a scammer, and you knew you did the wrong thing as soon as he told you that check came back.
Yes.
People very rarely get windfalls of money from the internet. Very rarely.
I'm not a
Don't look like this to me.
I'm
I
not a
don't
scammer
know.
because that-
I don't know
that
how I
letter
got
had-
Social Security disability. I don't know where I got this check from. I don't know. Well, now you know that this man who was doing you a favor cashed your check and got penalized because of your stupidity. He got penalized, but you said, listen, I got the money. Let him go after the people.
I
Let him
told
go
him
after.
not to
I'm
spend the money.
speaking.
No, I didn't.
Let
tell
him go
I
after
didn't
the
think
people.
That way. I did not think that way.
Well, then you
I did
should
not
have
think
returned
that
the
way.
money that you hadn't spent.
Okay, I did not. He didn't want the money that I had not spent.
So you spent
All
the
he
rest.
said-
Just a
no,
second. Hey,
I still have the $500.
supposed to set an example, Miss Burgos, for your children. You're not supposed to be a scammer.
I'm not
And
a scammer.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And you believed in getting something for nothing.
No, I
And
have
you
never
put him in a
believed
very
that getting
precarious
nothing for
position.
nothing.
You've got a lot of nerve.
I have never.
You've got a
believed
lot
that
of
we'll
nerve.
get
Your children
something for
should
nothing.
not. Your children are not going to be proud of you after today. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $29.50. That's all. Step out.
Daniel Bryan says former friend Kyle Lineker kicked him in the face during a drunken argument.
Mr. Bryant, who is this lady?
This is my mother.
You can sit down. Thank you. I gather your mother was the only one who wasn't drunk on the night of July 16th.
Yes, and she insisted on being here, so.
Good. How old are you, Daniel?
I'm 25, Your Honor.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a personal trainer, Your Honor.
Full-time?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor. It's considered part-time, but yes, I work full-time.
How many days a week do you work?
I work whenever I have clients. It could be weekends, nights, anytime.
What do you do the rest of the time, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm also a full-time
You-
student.
He forgot that. Who's paying for his school? Raise your hand. He forgot. Now, how old are you?
21.
How do you manage to keep yourself busy during the day?
I sell real estate.
For whom?
My father.
Are you married or single?
Not married.
And you?
I'm single, Your Honor.
And who is this young lady?
That's my girlfriend.
Well, if it's your girlfriend, then you're single. Got it. Now, was your girlfriend at this party on July 16th?
Yes, ma'am.
She drunk too?
Not drunk, no.
Had she been drinking?
Yes.
And who was this person over here?
That's my friend Joey.
Was Joey drunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were drunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were drunk?
Alcohol was involved, Your Honor.
Daniel,
Yes.
your complaint seems to say you acknowledge being so drunk.
Alcohol was involved, yes, but I wouldn't say we were so drunk, Your Honor.
I'm not talking about them. They acknowledge they were drunk.
Okay.
I'm talking about you.
Yes.
Were you drunk or sober?
I was drunk.
How come it took me 3 minutes to get there? 1 second would have been enough.
I'm sorry.
It is your complaint that this young man, Joey, didn't want you to drive home from the party because you were all drunk.
Correct.
Whose house was this party at?
It's Kyle's house.
Yours?
Yes, ma'am.
Who do you live with?
Oh,
it's not an answer.
3 roommates.
Is it your house or is it a rental house?
It's rental.
How many people were at this party?
About 8 or 9.
So Joey didn't want you to drive home. He tried to stop you, and according to your complaint, in the scuffle that ensued, you were injured. But you were injured not by Joey.
Correct.
You were injured by the defendant who, according to you, kicked you in the face and severely injured you.
Yes,
You want
facial
your
fracture.
bills paid, and the defendant says there was no way that he kicked you. You were injured in the course of a struggle because you were all out of control that night.
Right.
So what time did you get to this party, Daniel?
I'm guessing maybe 5 or 6 o'clock.
Where did you come from?
I probably came from work. I'm really not sure. I honestly don't remember, Your Honor, whether I came from home or I came from work. But I did go over there on the night of July 16th, around 5
So
or
you don't know whether you came there directly from home, directly from work, whether you had been out for the afternoon, whether you'd been working for the afternoon. You don't remember that, but you remember going over there about 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
What time was it that this altercation took place?
I would estimate maybe around 10 or 11 o'clock that the actual altercation took place.
And between 5 and 6 and 10 or 11, you were all drinking?
We were all socializing, yes.
I didn't ask you whether you were socializing. I asked you whether you were drinking.
Okay, yes.
Anybody using any soft or hard drugs?
No.
There was a slight hesitation there, Daniel.
Well, I had to think that the question you asked me was pretty, no, we did not do drugs. Alcohol and cigarettes.
Any funny cigarettes?
No funny cigarettes, Your Honor. I promise you.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely, there was no drug there that night.
So you were just all looped on alcohol. What was your drink of choice that night, Daniel?
We had mostly consumed...
No, not we. I said
I
you.
mostly consumed beer, Your Honor, with a little bit of liquor, probably.
What kind of a little bit of liquor?
Probably vodka, Your Honor.
Did you make the vodka with the beer, or were you drinking it sort of separately?
Probably separately, Your Honor.
But there came a time when you didn't remember anymore whether you were drinking it separately or together. Is that what you're telling me?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Well, I asked you whether you were drinking the vodka and the beer together, sort of mixed together, and you said probably separately. Now, as someone who is reasonably conversant in English, probably separately means it could have been mixed together.
Correct, Your Honor.
Now tell me what you remember as
Okay.
having happened between 10 and 11 after 5 to 6 hours of drinking with a mix of vodka and beer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Tell me what happened.
Even though alcohol was involved...
No, just tell
Okay.
me what happened.
Joey and I started to get into it because he would not allow...
That's Joey. Joey.
That's Joey Lewis on the end.
Joey.
He would not allow me to drive home, which is commendable. And he grabbed my keys and threw them in the front lawn. And, of course, I became enraged. And I said, no, you're not going to throw my keys in the front lawn. So I started a physical altercation with him. And we didn't throw any blows at each other. Like friends, we wrestled it out. We were grappling on the floor near the front door. And the two girls that were upstairs were watching, and Kyle was up there watching. And as I was on all fours, and as I opened up to my left, it wasn't then until I received a kick to my face.
And my other roommate was there.
And I know it wasn't the two girls because she had on flip-flops or sandals, and the other girl had on cowboy boots, and the cowboy boots would have pierced my skin. And he was actually behind me to my left as I was on fours, and it wasn't until I opened up till he came in for the kick. And it was very intense. I didn't feel any pain because the adrenaline and the endorphins kick in, but the impact was very, very intense. And there was no way he could have done it lying on the ground, because your momentum, if you're lying on the ground and you throw a punch in the air, you can't get your body weight into it, you can't get any force into it. He's not going to break a bone in my face. And I have the paperwork proving that I have a facial fracture and all the bills right here. I know he kicked me in the face. He definitely did. There's just no question about it. All the evidence points right towards him. And as I was on all fours, immediately after he kicked me, instantaneously I stand up, Your Honor, and in the corner of my eye I can see his profile. I turn around and confront him, and he looked like he saw a ghost.
You remember all that distinctly, is that
Yes,
right?
Your Honor. I've been thinking about this for a long time.
All right. Now, before you got to the party, Daniel, had you been drinking?
No, Your Honor.
So, Daniel, I just want to understand this.
Yes.
Before you got to the party, you had not been drinking, and you don't remember where you were coming from. Take your hands out of your pockets. You do remember only that you got there at about 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, then you spent 5 to 6 hours drinking an assortment of concoctions that rendered you inebriated. So inebriated that your best friend wouldn't let you drive home. Then, all of a sudden, being totally inebriated, you remember distinctly everything that happened. Doesn't that sound strange to you, Daniel? You don't remember where you were when you were sober, but when you were drunk, you remember everything. You have a very interesting mind, the way it works.
But there was no alcohol test that took place. There was no...
Listen to me very carefully, sir.
Yes.
What I said is exactly what you told me a moment ago. When you were sober, at 5 o'clock, you don't remember whether you were afoot or horseback, whether you came there from work, whether you came there from play. Then you drank for 6 hours, and then you have an acute memory of everything that happened, including a punch and a kick. Is that what you're saying?
Your Honor, I assure you I'm not lying to you.
No, I didn't ask you why I assure you're not lying. I asked you, is that what you're telling me?
Yes, Your Honor, that's what I told you.
Now let's move on to you.
For one, when him and Joey were wrestling by our front door, my other roommate, Ryan, was on his other side, right to his right, and we were both pulling him off of Joey. And he said that one of the girls couldn't have kicked him because she had sandals on, and as did I, so...
Did you kick him?
No.
You were drunk?
Yes.
Were you drunk?
Yes.
Now tell me what happened when you took his keys and threw them away.
Became enraged, and we got into like a wrestling fight on the floor.
When you say he became enraged, do you remember what he said to you?
Not exactly. I can't remember. It's still blurry for me. I do remember the wrestling part. I remember us wrestling around, and we fell to the ground. And I threw in a punch, but I didn't hit him in the face. I'm pretty sure I hit him in the back of the head during that. And then like 3 people tried to pull him off, and that's when we locked him outside of the house.
Nobody was angry with him.
No.
They were trying to protect him.
Exactly.
Daniel, nobody was angry with you that day, is that right?
Nobody was angry with me that day, no. But, Your Honor, I know he kicked me in the face. And all the evidence points towards him, and I didn't kick myself in the face, and it was intentional and it was malicious, and it had nothing to do with what me and Joey were doing.
That's what happens when
if
you
Joey
get
had
drunk, Daniel.
Your
That's
Honor,
what
kicking
happens
someone
when
in the
you.
face is
That's
wrong.
what happens when.
He could have killed me, Your Honor. People have died for much less. And any lower, I'd have lost all my teeth. Any higher, I probably would have lost an eyeball.
Daniel.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very possible. It's very possible that he
And you
kicked
can still
Listen,
see the discolor.
Daniel,
Yes,
don't drink if you can't hold your liquor.
you're right. I'm sorry.
There is absolutely no way to determine with a reasonable degree of certainty that you need in a court which of these people who were involved in this altercation caused your injury. The fact that you're giving me Einstein's theory of relativity and saying that when you're on the ground you can't punch somebody with enough force in order to get their body weight into it, so therefore it couldn't have been him that caused your injury, and therefore I must exclude him, is not evidence. Sir, listen to me carefully.
Yes, I had a phone conversation with him where he said, I admit I did not cause that injury. But I just...
No, sir. You're not following me. You don't know who caused the injury. You don't have sufficient clarity of memory in your drunken state to convince me that you can say that it was this young man that caused your injury. And if you want to make sure that you're not in that position again, I suggest that you're 25 years old and that you find something to do on a full-time basis or go to school on a full-time basis, because it's time for you to grow up.
I agree. It was an irresponsible thing for me to do.
Right. Then don't come to court and ask the court to waste its valuable time when you've behaved irresponsibly. You were all drunk. You shouldn't have been drunk, and I'm not satisfied. May have been him, but may have been him is not proof here sufficient for me
What
to
if he
find that he's
admits that
guilty.
he did it, though?
What if he admits that he did it? To who did he admit that he did it?
I was hoping you'd break him down and the evidence would be strong enough against him that maybe he would come clean.
Daniel,
Yes.
my job is not to break him down. My
Would you
job...
like to see the paperwork?
I don't want to see the paperwork unless the paperwork has a confession. Does it have a confession?
No, Your Honor. It's just proof from the doctor that I sustained his patient.
I believe that you sustained serious injury. You know what kind of serious injury you would have sustained if he would have let you drive home?
A lot of things could have happened that night.
Right. This time, you got drunk and you were injured. Fortunately, you didn't hurt anybody else. The answer is, don't get drunk. Getting drunk is stupid.
I agree, Your Honor.
Good. That's all.
25-year-old Chad Navarro is suing the mother of his daughter, 23-year-old Jennifer Resnikoff, for stealing money from his bank account. Chad claims Jennifer used the money to buy drugs.
Mr. Navarro, you and Miss Resnikoff lived together for a period of time, and you also have a child together.
Yes.
According to your complaint, when you were living together, you gave Miss Resnikoff the ability to withdraw money from your bank account. She had access to your bank account, and that was with your permission to cover certain bills.
Yes.
It is your claim that she drained your bank account in order to purchase drugs.
Yes.
And you want her to reimburse you for the amount that she took without your authorization to purchase drugs. Ms. Resnikoff says that she did in fact withdraw the money from your bank account. It was a bank account that you gave her access to. She had withdrawn money in the past for household items, but that you had not given her sufficient money to take care of your child, and she purchased items for your child, and that was the reason that she took the money out of the bank. Is that right?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Resnikoff. When did Mr. Navarro give you access to the bank account?
I'd say probably about 4 months after we first met.
Give me the month and the year.
Approximately, I would say March of 2002, approximately.
So from March of 2002 until what date did you have access to the bank account?
Till we broke up.
Which was when?
Which was in August of this year.
During what months do you claim that she withdrew, without your permission, the bulk of the money, over $3,000?
Yeah.
September and October of what year?
5.
And when did the two of you break up?
We broke up maybe at the end of September.
October. Not August, it was October.
When was the last time you lived with Miss Resnikoff?
I don't really remember the dates. You know, I
Was
don't
it
remember.
2 months ago or 2 weeks ago?
It was about a month, maybe 2 weeks ago.
I moved in with my brother 3.5 weeks ago, thank you.
That's not August.
Well, I was saying that in August and October she was taking the money out. In 8 and 9. Oh, August and September. Okay.
Can I see a bank statement? How old is your baby?
11 months, ma'am.
Where is the baby?
She is here.
Who does she live with?
Me.
Are you talking, sir, about where it says ATM withdrawals?
Yes. She had the card. She took it out of the mail.
What'd you spend all this money on?
My baby.
Baloney.
No, really. I have a witness that was there most of the times that I went out and purchased stuff.
Well, just a second. Who gave you the authority to do that?
Well, I thought seeing that I was on the account that I could access it without this being
You
a
spent
problem.
over $3,000 in a 30-day period on your
I don't
baby?
think it was $3,000.
Yeah?
Your Honor?
Yes, go ahead.
Right on the back page you can see the checks that she wrote to cash. So, I mean, why would she write it to cash if she was just buying the stuff for the baby? She could have just went there.
Listen to me, it's baloney. I just said to you, it's baloney.
I was just saying, sorry.
Yeah, it's baloney. My question to you, Mr. Navarro, is something that to me is more serious than $3,000 out of your bank account. You have a son or a daughter with this lady?
Daughter.
And you separated and she took the baby?
Yes.
And you say she's got a drug problem?
She's with her brother right now, and
So
she's
what?
been clean.
How do you know that?
Because
How do you know
I
that?
trust her brother. Her brother's my best friend, and I trust him. And
You trust him to what?
He's there all
Take
day.
your hands out of your pockets.
He's there all day,
Well,
and
why? He doesn't work?
no, he does work. He does eBay.
What do you mean he does eBay?
eBay, he sells stuff on eBay.
Where does he get the stuff he sells on eBay?
He buys it offline and then sells it like laptop computers and stuff like that.
Where does he get the money from to buy the stuff, sir?
Where does he get it? From eBay. He posts the stuff, he gets the money, and then he uses the money to buy the stuff again. You know what I mean? That's how...
Do I know what you mean? I know what you're telling me. I know what you're telling me. What do you do for a living?
Me? I'm a warehouse manager.
Let me tell you this, Mr. Navarro. If somebody has a $3,000 a month drug habit, which is what you're alleging, you don't get over a $3,000 a month drug habit unless you go into an inpatient facility for a long time. And I wouldn't believe my best friend who makes his money in some unorthodox way that his sister is clean. You following me, sir?
Yes.
That's what I would worry about. Not the fact that she took this money out of a bank account that you gave her access to, that she's had access to for 3 years. You should have been watching the store a little more carefully. Do you understand? Yeah. What I would worry about is my 11-month-old child, if you believe that she was using drugs, which is very easy to find out. You go to court, you file for custody of your child, they take her in, they do a drug test on her hair. They do a hair follicle test, and the hair follicle test will show what kind of drugs she had been doing over the last year, in what amount, and in what frequency. Not whether she used drugs the day before, but it will show a pattern of drug use. That's what you do. Do you understand? If that's what you think.
Well, she even admitted to me.
Have you done that?
What? No.
Take custody of your daughter?
No.
Well, then I hardly believe, sir, that a man, the only one in this whole family of 3, she, her brother, and you, the only one who works, who has a steady source of income for a long time, you're the only one who can manage to hold it together, has not done that. I said, it's okay for you. You can go live with your brother. You and your drug habit, and your brother and his unorthodox business can all go live together, and I'll do what I have to do. That's not what a responsible person does, Mr. Navarro. Responsible person doesn't leave an 11-month-old child with someone who had a $3,000 a month drug habit. You want to say anything?
Yeah, I did not have a drug habit. I had admitted to him that I had tried certain drugs, which I'm not proud of.
Just a second. Where did you get them?
Where did I get them?
No, I asked the question. Don't take time to think of the answer. Where did you get them?
From his...
He gave them to you for nothing, or did you pay for them?
I paid for them.
Out of this money?
Part of it, yes, but not $3,000 worth.
I don't care if it was 20 cents. She says she told you she got the drugs from your...
There was an intervention that we had, and everybody came over, and she admitted that she was doing the drugs, and she did not tell me.
She just told me she was doing drugs.
But it was more than that, what you admitted.
Listen to me.
It wasn't only that.
Listen to me, sir. I believe if she admits to a little, she used a lot. My problem with you, Mr. Navarro, is when you go to court and seek custody of your daughter, they will do a drug test on her mother. And I guarantee you that if it's established that she's been using drugs, the chances of you getting custody of your child, if you don't do drugs...
No. The thing is, if I do that, she said she would run, so...
She said she'll run?
Yeah.
Mr. Navarro, that's what they all say. That's what you're supposed to do if you feel as if your child is at risk. Do you understand?
Yes.
And then, if you have custody of your daughter, that gives her an opportunity to get a job, which now she doesn't have, right?
No.
And once she gets a job, you might get some of this money back. Won't be in the form of this, it'll be in the form of child support that she'll have to pay you to help take care of your daughter. You get it?
Yep.
That would be my concern, sir. My 11-month-old would be my concern. Is it yours?
Yes.
Good, your case is dismissed. That's all.
Mary Freer says stepson Jonathan Freer owes for destroying her home and her car. Jonathan says his actions were a result of his drug addiction.
Miss Freer, the defendant is your stepson.
Yes.
How long were you married to his father?
20 years.
Did he live with you during any of that period of time?
Not until recently. He lived with his mother. We saw him until he was 5 years old, and then she basically stole him. And we didn't see him again until he was 18.
Well, your lawsuit says that there came a time when your stepson rented a house from you and your husband. It was a house that you and your husband owned. It was a rental property.
Yes.
And he was supposed to pay rent. He did for a while, then he sort of fell off with the rent. He also was using a car that belonged to Who, you or your husband?
Myself.
And your husband unfortunately passed away this past summer. And when you went to the rental property, found that he had moved out and the place was totally trashed.
Yes, it was.
And the car was likewise totally trashed.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want him to pay for that.
He should.
And his defense seems to be that if he had a debt to take care of the house, not the rent, just the condition of the house and the car, the debt was with his father, not with you. And when his father passed away, the debt vanished. Is that your defense, sir?
Yes.
You don't really believe that, do you?
Yeah.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything funny. I guarantee you that by the time you're finished here, you will not be laughing. How old are you?
26.
How do you support yourself?
I work.
Doing what?
I install glass in buildings.
When did you move into this rental property?
A couple of years ago.
Tell me when. Don't be smart and don't be smug. Are you a drug addict or an alcoholic?
I was.
When?
Back when I was living there.
Really? Both drugs and alcohol?
Yes.
See, I was being sort of facetious because I was going to say you had to be on drugs or alcohol or else you would know how many years ago you moved into this house. So you were an alcohol abuser and a drug abuser.
Yes.
While you were living in the house.
Yes.
Are you still abusing drugs and alcohol?
No.
Did you go into rehab?
No.
You mean you just stopped?
Yeah.
You want to tell me how you did that and when?
Back in February of this year, I was stabbed and
By a stranger?
kind of. I really didn't know him. I was just partying with him.
So you were in the hospital for a while?
Yeah, well, just like one night. It wasn't really that bad. It was stabbed in the back. It just like punctured my lung, just a little.
And?
And after that, my dad had a stroke and stuff, so I just kind of figured I need to start changing my life.
Well, that's a very good thing that you figured you had what we call in the trade an epiphany, a life-altering experience, a wake-up call, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Don't be smart with me. I don't think you're cute. Now, if you have what we call an epiphany, a mind and a life-altering experience, that usually says you want to start doing the right thing. Is that right?
Yeah.
Try yes.
Yes.
And when you were living in this rental property, you'd stop paying rent because you were putting up your nose or in your veins or whatever you were earning. So you stopped paying rent, correct?
Correct.
And you stopped paying for the care of this car, correct?
Correct.
Then you had this experience. Don't you think that you should go back to your old life and say, I have to make certain amends for things that I did, like trashing this house?
No.
Why not?
My dad never really had a problem with it. I mean, they knew I was partying there. They knew I was drinking. They knew I was partying. They knew I had friends coming over.
Can I see pictures of the house, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
Staying with friends.
What did I ask you that was funny?
Nothing.
Why would you trash a house like this, sir?
Just having a good time.
Are you the only child that your father had with your mother?
No.
How many other children did your father have with...
One.
Where is that child?
He kind of stays with my mom.
Does he stay with your mother because he takes care of her?
No.
She takes care of him?
Well, he stays in one of her apartments. I really don't talk to them that much.
Why not?
I really don't like my mom too much.
Did you like your father?
Yeah. Yes.
Did you respect your father?
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Well...
And you don't respect him now. Did I wipe the smile off your face? You don't respect him now because if you respected him, you wouldn't have done this to his property. And if the excuse was that you were using drugs and alcohol and therefore you were not in control of yourself, that's not an excuse. That's a reason that you would allow you and your friends to do this to his property. But now you've sobered up. So I don't think that you respect your father or his memory, sir.
Yeah, but
because if you did, then you would say, this property belonged to, at least in part, my father, and I'm disrespecting his memory by leaving it like a pig pen. I'm disrespecting who he was and how nice he was to me by saying to me, listen, we'll give you a home. You don't like your mother. Maybe she's a problem, but I want you to feel as if you have a home with us. Here's a place for you to live, and you take it and trash it. But then you get clean and sober, and you don't fix it. And there's no excuse for that if you want to do the right thing and turn your life around, Mr. Frere. We understand each other?
Yes.
We're not laughing anymore, are we?
No.
I see the estimates of what it's going to take to clean up this place. I doubt whether the jurisdiction of my court would cover it. It doesn't. All right, now tell me quickly about the car.
He didn't have a vehicle, so I let him use my vehicle. And when I found out he left, we went to the house and the car was in the driveway.
How did you find out that he moved out?
He told my daughter. My daughter speaks with her brother still, and he told my daughter that he was going to move out. She's the one who informed me that he was gone. Did you need to hear that from her?
No, I'm just going to give you some advice. You too. When somebody is a drug abuser, and he acknowledges that he was a drug abuser, and unless they take care of it, it's not going to go away. And his life-altering experience didn't, from what I'm hearing, alter the way he thinks. So you look like two nice young people. Keep your distance. I know you're looking like this. I'm telling you, for your own protection, keep your distance. Bad news. Okay. Can I see pictures of the car, please?
He came to us with some serious problems, and it took us a while, and it appeared that he had straightened his life out. He really was doing great. He had a great job, made good money, and that was why he rented the apartment, why we let him move in, because we figured that it was his family. He was going to take care of it just like we would have. And he did. For over a year, he did. And then I don't know if it was his father getting sick or what happened to him, but it all just hit the wall, and he reverted right back to what he knew. And, you know, what I'm left with is to pick up the mess.
Mrs. Frere, listen to me. When he came to you, he had some problems. Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I said.
And would those problems include substance abuse?
I'm sure it was. I couldn't prove it, but I would say.
And then he got a job, and he appeared to be okay.
He did very well.
And then he went back to drugs and alcohol.
Yep.
Did you hear what your mother said?
Yes.
Unless you take care of it once and for all, it's like an enemy that you wound over your shoulder. If you wound an enemy, that enemy can always come back to hurt you, right? Mm-hmm. That's drugs. You have to get rid of it. And he's not smart enough to get rid of it on his own. And he's never gone anywhere to help him get rid of it. So he's always going to go back to it. And he's going to suck you in if you let him. You understand?
Yes.
Good. So I'm glad you're working, sir. Good. And if I haven't been able to help you, that's too bad. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Marcus Mahaffey says his estranged mother-in-law, Patricia Strawn, owes for burning his work uniforms. Patricia claims Marcus is making up a story.
Mr. Mahaffey, the defendant is your mother-in-law. You are currently separated from your wife. I assume this is your wife.
Yes.
And you have one child together.
Yes, ma'am.
I gather from your complaint that you, your wife, and your baby were living with Miss Strawn in her home.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there was some altercation involving you and your wife and your baby. You claimed that you left, and after you left, Miss Strawn burned your clothes.
Yes.
Miss Strawn says she did not burn your clothes, she put them out on the curb. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did your daughter and her husband live with you? From when to when?
They're going to be married 2 years in September. Pretty much the whole time they've been with us.
And when did you leave?
May 23rd on a Monday.
Tell me what happened.
I had my mother pick me up from work.
Did she always pick you up from work?
No, ma'am.
Why did she pick you up on the 23rd of May?
I had no ride at the time.
Okay, she picked you up from work and dropped you off at your house?
My house was at her house at the time. I got there, and I asked my mother if she wanted to see our son, Ethan, and I told her to wait 1 minute. I went up to the front porch after arriving at the house.
Why did you tell her to wait? Don't they get along?
To some extent. There's been some problems, arguments.
There'd be no reason why she couldn't have came in.
Okay, go ahead.
I went up to the front porch, and what I saw was Ashley and a couple of her friends smoking marijuana on the front porch, and my son was running around in the middle of them.
Where was your mother-in-law?
She was at work at the time.
Is this the first time that you saw your wife smoking marijuana in front of your son?
No, ma'am.
Was this a frequent occurrence?
Yes.
My daughter did not smoke pot.
Don't shout out again. I let you do it once.
Okay.
But don't. Go ahead. Put your hand down.
After seeing what I saw,
I had asked for Ashley to ask all her friends to leave at the time.
Well, you probably got angry. If what you say is true, you probably didn't just ask, you probably got angry and were shouting.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you were shouting, and what did you do?
I told her I was going to my mother's house to stay for a little while, so I had picked my son up, and I did not want him to be around.
You picked him up and you walked outside with him?
Yes.
And you went to the car?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what happened next?
I asked my mother if we could come over there and stay for a day or two. She said that's fine. We had left and went to the house, and when we arrived at my mother's house, Ashley had called me and told me to give her back her son. And I said, not with you smoking marijuana around him. Until you can stop, then you can call me.
All right. Ms. McCafferty, I'd like you to stand up, please. You remember going over to the Strawn house on the 23rd of May?
Yes, ma'am.
When you went over there, when your son came back, he came back with your grandson. Can you tell me what he said to you when he came back?
He simply stated that they were up there smoking marijuana and he didn't want his son around it. And
Did he use the word marijuana?
No, ma'am. He pot.
Okay.
And asked me if he could come over to the house and stay and bring the baby, which at that point I told him yes.
Okay. Keep going, Mr. McCaffrey.
After we arrived at the house, Ashley had called me, and she told me to bring back the baby. And I said, no, not with you smoking. And after that, she had hung up on me. And I had called Patty at work, and I had told her what she was doing, because before I had called her, Ashley had already called her at work and said that I had kidnapped our son.
Well, that's not possible.
And after that, I talked to her for about 20 minutes or so, and she said, why are you doing this? Ashley does not smoke. She hung up.
Ms. Strawn, are you thoroughly convinced that your daughter doesn't smoke marijuana?
Well, actually...
Just answer my question. Thoroughly convinced?
Yes.
All right. There's a very simple way to find that out, Ms. Strawn.
She's been tested. They turned her into defects.
Has she done a hair follicle test or just a urine test?
The urine test. She passed 5.
Just a second. Has she done a hair follicle test?
Nobody suggested it.
Very easy. We can take care of that.
Well, you'll have to do it to him, too, because he's bad as she is.
No, just a second. I'm not interested in him right now. I'm interested in your daughter. Urine test is nothing. But a hair follicle test will demonstrate when you smoked, how much you smoked, and it stays in the hair follicle for up to a year. So you understand that if I order a hair follicle test, if your daughter consents, the results of that test can be sent to any domestic relations court when there is an issue of custody and or visitation. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Now go and discuss with your daughter whether she's prepared for us to take a sample of her hair and send it to our laboratory. Go ahead.
Like
go
I
ask
said,
her.
ma'am, if you
go,
do it to him,
no,
too.
just, he's not an issue.
Ready?
Yeah. Fine, we'll do that. At the conclusion of the hearing, we'll do that.
Well, what does that have to do with what the case is about, ma'am?
Well, it has a great deal to do with the case, madam, because what you're saying is that your daughter doesn't smoke marijuana, therefore the story that he just told me about going up to the porch and seeing her is a lie. That's what you're telling me.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm saying, well, there's a very easy way to figure that out. It has nothing to do with whether he smokes marijuana or not. It's whether your daughter did, and you are committed to the fact that she does not.
Right.
You want to smoke dope, that's your business, but don't smoke dope in front of your child.
I don't, ma'am.
Or be around friends who do.
We weren't smoking pot, ma'am.
What were you doing?
Sitting there talking, and he took the baby without a car seat and left. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning told me to come. He smokes crack, too.
Just a second. Smokes marijuana? And you never... Stand up. Stand up. And what you're telling me is you never did it with him?
Yes, ma'am, I will admit to that.
All right. That's all I'm asking you, my dear. So your mother is mistaken. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
She has been. That's all I wanted to know. That's it. That's the issue. Now you can sit down. You got it. Your daughter does smoke marijuana. She didn't tell you, but she smoked it with her husband. She says he smokes other things too. I didn't ask her about the other things, but she clearly smokes marijuana. Now we understand each other, Miss Strawn? Oh. Now, let's get back to your burned clothing. Go! And get there fast, because I have other things to do today.
We arrived at the house after her calling me, and I talked to Patty.
So you brought the baby back. Keep
Yes,
going.
ma'am. And that night, when I was talking to Ashley, I heard Patty in the background asking for marshmallows. I asked why they want marshmallows. Did they have a fire going? Ashley said, yes, they're burning your clothes. They want to roast marshmallows over your clothes. And I did not believe her. So the next day on the 24th, I went over there to see for myself. Patty was not there. Ashley refused to show me any clothes. I just happened to walk down the driveway and I smelled something burnt, a distinctive smell.
Is that burnt clothes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You want to show me one piece of the burnt clothing? I don't have to see the whole thing.
Your Honor, who's to say that he didn't burn his own clothes?
Me.
After everything he's done to me.
Me, I'm to say.
Okay.
I'm to say. Because I read your answer. Got it. Okay, you can put it away. Okay. Ms. Strawn says that she took your clothes and she put them out by the curb.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, I did.
You can't do that.
Why?
Because he's a resident of your home, and you have an obligation to hold on to his property until he comes to get it, unless he, put your hand down, unless he abandons it. You have no right to take his clothes and put them on the curb, because if you took them and put them on the curb and burned them, you would be responsible. You have no right to do that.
But he has never as much as paid a cent living
I
in
don't
my house.
care. You allowed him to live in your home for 2 years. I'm speaking to you. He lived in your home for 2 years. Don't get in the middle. You're really dumb if you get in the middle, especially if you have 2 children who are babies themselves, and I probably believe you that both of them smoke pot and whatever else. So it's very possible that you 2 mothers-in-law and grandmothers are going to have to be responsible for this baby at some point, because certainly they're not responsible. And I would suggest that you try to maintain reasonable relations. He's allowed to take his child.
No, he's not. There's a TPO
No,
against him.
listen to me. At the time he took his child, there was no custody order. And in this country, the United States of America, one parent does not have any priority over custody over another when the 2 people are married.
But it didn't have anything to do with him pulling up with pot. He wanted the baby, had his mom waiting in the driveway. That's what he did.
Miss Strawn, you weren't there. And the fact that you are so committed to the baloney story that you have concocted in your head, because I believe her when she says that when he came back with the baby and said she's smoking pot on the driveway. I believe he said it. You don't believe it?
I don't, ma'am.
That's your problem. In any event, you have to pay for his clothes. How much were the clothes worth?
The total for the uniforms was $508.
What kind of uniform?
My work uniforms.
What kind of work?
The job he doesn't have anymore.
Mechanic.
You
just got out of jail, for God's sakes.
You are really thick. You're really thick. You're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you.
I'm paying attention.
No, you're not paying attention to what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying to you is you're supposed to stay out of it. This genius picked this genius.
Yeah.
The only problem, well, this is your genius, Miss Strawn. If he's no bargain, that's her problem. This genius belongs to you. She made a baby with him. He's not going to be out of your life. And that doesn't give you the right to vandalize his property. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $508. That's all.
21-year-old child care provider Amy Helsher is suing former client, 20-year-old Heather McGlenn, for breaking their contract. Heather says Amy is a negligent caregiver.
Miss Helsher, how old are you?
21.
You run a daycare center?
Yes, ma'am.
For how many children?
I'm licensed for 10 with 2 children under the age of 2.
Who works in your daycare center?
Just myself.
And 10 children?
I don't have 10. Right now I currently watch 5 with my 2 children.
7 children. How old are they?
2 3-year-olds and a 9-month-old, a 4-month-old, and then my 2 children.
And how old are your 2 children?
19 months and 4 months.
And who is this?
My husband.
It is your complaint that Miss McGlenn, who had a child in your daycare, took her child out of daycare without giving you 2 weeks' notice.
Right.
She has what appears to me to be a very good reason why she wouldn't give you 2 weeks' notice. In addition to the 2 weeks' notice, you claim that her child called your daycare.
Yes.
And you want her to pay the damage to the daycare. You also want her to pay late fees for not giving you the 2 weeks' notice. I'm absolutely amazed that you're here. Because according to what I read, Miss Helsher?
Yes.
Her baby, who's how old?
2 years old.
2 years old. The property that the baby damaged was some sort of a disc?
A computer disc.
That the baby put in a paper shredder.
Yes.
A paper shredder that was exposed so that the 2-year-old could get it while nobody was watching him. Okay, why don't you tell me how a 2-year-old can come in contact with a paper shredder that would shred a heavy piece of plastic?
It got stuck in the paper shredder. The computer disc was on top of the computer that's in my living room where they watch cartoons while I cook lunch, so I have them all under control.
You don't have them all under control. You don't have 7 children under control all by yourself? What state do you live in?
Missouri.
Anybody out there in Missouri? A 21-year-old lady doesn't watch 7 children, and possibly 12. There is something wrong in the state of Missouri. Don't you realize that her child could have lost a hand?
Fingers do not fit in the paper shredder. We have tried. Nothing fits in it.
How have you tried?
Nothing fits in it. There's a slot that's like a centimeter thick. It's not even wide at all. And the CD could not have came out because my husband had to use tools to get it out of the paper shredder.
You are responsible for anything that happens in your house.
Yes, ma'am.
While you are in control of these children, not their parents. You take on the responsibility of these children while you are watching them, while they are in your care for money. The idea that you would sue her for the $15 disc that her 2-year-old destroyed while you were in the kitchen not supervising adequately these 7 children is outrageous. Don't you get that? Do you understand that?
Yes.
What would prompt you to sue her for that disc when it is totally your responsibility that this child destroyed property and could have hurt himself? And I guarantee you, they're very inventive, these little children. Places where you never think they're going to be able to fit a finger, they fit a finger. You know, children lose fingers and hands on escalators. You figure, how do they do that? They do it. They're uncanny. That's why you don't take on the responsibility of 7 children. Because if you're in the kitchen cooking, somebody has to be in the living room watching the 7 children. I'm also amazed at you, Miss McGlenn, for leaving your baby there for another 4 weeks after this incident happened. You want to explain why to me?
Well, the first incident was the paper shredder. And at that point, I had opened up my eyes and I was paying more attention to what was going on because I'm a single mother. You know, I'm a working mother and I didn't have anyone else to care for my child. I was trying to find another situation for my son that I felt he was safe in.
How did you arrange to modify your schedule?
I got a different job. I started working a different shift, and I didn't need a babysitter.
Who takes care of him?
My boyfriend.
Boyfriend. How long has this been a boyfriend?
About 1.5 years.
Not the baby's father?
No.
Not happy about that. Just, you the mother?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not crazy about boyfriends watching babies.
Well, it was while he was sleepy.
I don't care if he was out at the prom. I'm not crazy about boyfriends watching babies.
I understand.
Lots of bad things have happened. Your boyfriend may be a really nice guy. I don't know. But you thought that this situation was okay too, right?
No.
When you put your baby there, you thought it was okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Turned out not to be okay. You got lucky once. Sometimes it doesn't happen. In any event, while I'm at it, since this is not the first 2 weeks notice case that I got from daycare centers, I'm going to tell you that this is one area, if I were a state government, I would not permit the 2 weeks notice requirement to be put in any daycare situation for the following reason. I'm just throwing this out for general information because I have an extra 30 seconds. Once I removed a child from daycare for cause, I wouldn't want to say, well, I'm going to leave him in here for another 2 weeks because that's what the contract says, that I have to leave him here for another 2 weeks and then worry that he's going to be either neglected or abused or somebody's not going to watch carefully enough because he's a child that's on its way out. I think that if you're moving and you give plenty of notice and say, listen, I'm moving, fine. But if there's cause for you removing your child from a daycare, I think that that 2 week requirement should be absolutely stricken from every daycare contract that's written, especially ones that are state subsidized. Ms. Holscher, you don't have a case. Goodbye.
Lori Abarca says former client Matthew Finch pulled his kids out of her daycare without notice. Matthew is countersuing, claiming Lori made a false CPS report.
Mrs. Abarca, this is a pretty nasty case. According to your complaint, the defendant is the former husband of your best friend.
Yes.
What's your former wife's name?
Stacy.
Stacy. And they have 2 children. And you were providing daycare in your home for their 2 children.
Correct.
And subsequent to their separation, you took care of the children for how long?
Approximately 9 months, from August of 2004 until April 1st of 2005.
And then it is your claim that Mr. Finch, without cause, removed the children from your daycare. He did, in fact, give you 2 weeks' notice and paid you, according to what I've read here, for the 2 weeks' notice.
Yes.
That's correct. But your claim is that Mr. Finch knew that he had an obligation to keep the children there, so you want him to pay for daycare for how long?
I just want him to pay for daycare up until the date that their mother gave me the 2 weeks notice, because she was the only one that was able to make the daycare decision per their court order.
Just shh. Don't. Okay. On what date did she give you the 2 weeks notice?
I believe it was May 12th.
Okay. So let's deal with that part of the complaint first.
Okay.
You'll get into the incident because there's much more to this case than these few weeks. When Mr. Finch gave you the 2 weeks notice on April 1st and tendered payment for those 2 weeks, did you take his payment?
Yes.
So then let us deal with this issue swiftly. Okay. You're entitled to nothing. If you said to Mr. Finch, I'm not taking your money, it is my friend who is responsible for giving me the 2 weeks notice, not you, I would go on with that part of your lawsuit. Mm-hmm. But since you took his money, I'm not entertaining any money for April or 2 weeks in May. Now let's move on to the next part of your claim. The next part of your claim is that there was an incident on or about April 1st involving your husband and the defendant. And as a result of that, Mr. Finch called the state licensing board and made false allegations against you. Mr. Finch said what he reported to the state licensing board was true, correct?
That's correct.
The counterclaim that I have by Mr. Finch is that you called Child Protective Services complaining about Mr. Finch and alleging that he in some way inappropriately touched one or both of his children. That's the allegation.
Right.
So, did you in fact call Child Protective Services?
I did.
On what date?
April 4th.
And what did you tell them in this 4-4 report?
I told them that his oldest daughter, Kiana, for the last month and a half had been reacting extremely badly when he would come to pick her up. She would start crying hysterically. She would run to the background, anybody, my children, my husband, myself, that she could get to.
Is that what you told the state so far?
Yes.
What else did you tell them?
And I told them that I felt that there was something going on at the house. I didn't know what, but I know that somebody needed to investigate it. When I did make that phone call, Stacy was right beside me, in full agreement with me calling, because for several weeks before...
Don't tell me about Stacy.
Okay. For several weeks before, I had spoken to Stacy and Matt about Kiana's behavior. It would be so bad at times that he would come to pick up both of the girls and have to leave with just Lexi, the little one, and leave Kiana at my home until her mother or her stepfather could come and pick her up because she wouldn't go with him.
Shh. Okay.
So I confronted Stacy about what was going on and told her that I was very uncomfortable with the way that Kiana was reacting and that I was very concerned that something was happening over at his house.
No, she doesn't include that.
This revelation, Ms. Abarca, that you had to call and make a substantive report to Child Protective Services did not occur until after Mr. Finch removed the children from your daycare. Is that correct?
Yes and no.
Yeah. The first time that you called and made a substantive report, despite what you say you had been seeing for the last month and a half, is 3 days after he removed the children from your daycare.
Yes.
There's certain hard data, and then there's certain soft data. Your conversations with your friend Stacy is soft data. The timing of these events is hard data, which in my view very often suggests that you can make a leap with regard to things like motive. You get me?
Yes.
Good. Now, did you subsequently go to the family court with regard to her allegations of abuse?
Yes, I did.
And was there a hearing?
There was a hearing.
And subsequent to the hearing, was your time with your children diminished, supervised, increased?
Stayed the same. We were sent to family court counseling after that.
Who was?
Me and my ex-wife.
Just the two of you?
Correct.
And did you both go to counseling?
I requested private mediation. I figured 1 hour with the family court services was not efficient time to handle this situation, and therefore I was granted time to get a private mediation.
And as a result of the mediation, what happened?
My time was increased.
To what?
to 50%.
It had been previous to that, how much?
It was only 37% time.
Subsequent to the call to Child Protective Services, was your daughter subjected to a physical examination?
Yes, both daughters were. And I do have the report here.
Can I see it,
Would you like to
please?
see it? For both daughters.
Their mother requested it when she took them for those exams. It wasn't
CPS
court ordered.
requested it.
It wasn't court ordered or anything through CPS. Stacy called and made those appointments.
Listen to me, madam. What you're giving me is hearsay. The objective data is you made a report. As a result of that report and subsequent to that report, these children were subjected to physical examinations. That was precipitated by your call. And if their mother had seen signs that she felt were untoward, she could have taken the children without your call to Child Protective Services. Your call to Child Protective Services inspired this action. Now I want to know what happened April 1st.
Okay. April 1st, Matt calls me probably around 5 o'clock, letting me know that he's on his way to pick up the girls.
And how many days a week had he picked up the children?
He picked them up at least 85% of the 9 months that they were with me, because their mother would work nights and evenings and stuff like that.
How old are your children?
They're 6 and 8 now.
So now he came to pick up the children on April 1st.
He had called me and let me know he was coming to get them. And
As I do every day.
Listen, if you interrupt again, it's not going to go well for you. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
So far, you don't feel as if I'm favoring her, do you?
Not at all.
Then keep your mouth shut until I look at you and ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Go.
His phone call was that he wanted to change his payment dates on the way over. I said, no, we're not going to change them. They're in a contract. You've signed it. This is the way that it's been for 9 months. And he got very angry.
No, just a second. Did he tell you why he wanted to change his payment dates?
No, he didn't.
Okay. And you said, no, you can't.
Right.
If your friend Stacy had called and said, I would like to change the payment date, what would you have answered her?
I would have talked to her about it.
Right.
Which is what I tried to do with Matt.
No, that's not what you said. You said absolutely not.
Okay.
That's what you just told me.
Well,
I'm just
right.
repeating your words.
Well, no, actually, he called me and told me he wanted to change the payment dates.
And you just told me you said absolutely not. You have a contract.
And I said to him, well, your payment's due today. And he then told me that he wasn't going to pay me when he came to pick up the girls and got angry and started yelling at me. And I said to him, you know what, Matt, you have a contract with me. These are the same dates you've always made payment.
Continue.
Don't speak to her! And it's not your job to tell her to continue. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You keep saying, yes, ma'am. Is there something wrong with you? Do you have problem controlling yourself?
Not at all.
Well, it seems to me you do. Go ahead.
He got very hostile with me on the phone, yelling and screaming.
No,
so
you
I
were
said,
hostile.
Well, no.
You were hostile.
It was a reaction to him.
You know what the big mistake was?
What's that?
The big mistake was choosing you as a daycare provider. When you have a best friend who is divorcing her husband and there are bad feelings that exist between the two people, to have someone as a child care provider who is aligned with one of the parents is a monumental mistake. Monumental. Because you are emotionally invested in his ex-wife and her welfare, not emotionally invested in his welfare, and that comes through loud and clear. Having said that, we will move on. So he came to pick up the children, and what happened, Ms. Abarco, when he came to pick up the children?
When he came to pick up the kids, my husband went outside to go talk to him because we'd had many, many incidences with his youngest daughter, Lexi, being physically abusive to our son. And it was just...
This is the husband?
This is my husband.
What was he doing home?
He was already done working for the day.
What kind of work does he do?
He's a forklift mechanic for Toyota.
Let me understand this, Ms. Abarca. You sent him outside.
No.
You said you were inside with the girls, so your husband went outside to speak to him.
Right.
Well, you must have, when you got off the phone, said to your husband, he's coming over and he says he's not going to pay me. Got to discuss that with him. And you have to discuss with him his daughter's aggressive behavior, right?
Yes, I spoke to him about the phone call with Matt and about the incident we had just had with Lexi and Cole on Matt's way over to come and pick up the girls.
Well, why don't you tell me about the incident between your son, who was how old?
At that time, he was 18 months old.
And the daughter, who was how old?
Lexi was 5 and a half.
So why don't you tell me about that incident?
I believe on that day she pushed him down. She would pull his hair and pull him down. You know, just different little things like that that were constant. And I sat down with Lexi and I said, you know, Lexi, we've been having a lot of problems with this kind of behavior. What is wrong? Why is it that you and Cole can't seem to get along? What can we do to change it? And she says to me that her father told her that if there's something she wants or Cole does something that she doesn't like, then she can basically take matters into her own hand. If she needs to push him away from her or do something like that, that's what he told her. The 8-year-old daughter, Kiana, was there as well. Kiana confirmed that was the discussion that they had in their vehicle and also stated that there was a boy she was having problems with at school, and Matt told her that if he continued to bother her, she could go ahead and punch him.
Where were you when this was going on with the 5-year-old and your 18-month-old?
I was in my dining room.
And where were they?
They were in my living room, which there's a huge opening.
That's not supposed to happen. It's your responsibility if the 5-year-old pushes down the 18-month-old. It's your responsibility because you are providing inadequate supervision of the children. I don't care whether you agree or not.
Children are children.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And a 5-year-old may push down an 18-month-old, and an 18-month-old may pull a 5-year-old's hair.
Right.
Or may take something away, and the 5-year-old says you can't do that.
Absolutely.
You just answered your own question.
Lori Abarca claims former client Matthew Finch owes for daycare fees, defamation of character, and a false police report.
Stand up. All right. Mr. Abarca, you tell me what you said to Mr. Finch when you went outside.
I walked up to Mr. Finch.
Look at me. You walked up to Mr. Finch and said...
He was still in his vehicle. I explained to him...
No, tell me what you said.
I said, Matt, there was a situation with the 2 kids. Lexi approached Cole, grabbed the ball from him, pushed it back into his chest, and then grabbed him by his hair and pulled him to the ground. When Lori confronted Lexi about it, Lexi explained that if she felt somebody was picking on her, it would be all right for her to go ahead and do something back, retaliate.
Okay, so your wife said to you that the little girl said, my daddy says that somebody is picking on me, then I have the right to do something back to them. Correct?
Correct.
And what did Mr. Finch say to you?
He got out of his car, said he never said that, got into my face. I explained to him, would you please not allow Lexi to retaliate, that if she has a problem, she needs to go to Lori. I don't appreciate our baby being pulled down to the ground by his hair, and that conduct is not okay.
Mrs. Abarca, I have 11 grandchildren. I've seen them all playing around together.
Right.
If one of them, who's 5, gets annoyed at one of them who's 2 because they pulled something out of their hand, they'll push them. That's not cause for World War III.
No, you're right.
That just
I agree.
happens.
I agree, but it was much more severe than that. And I have statements that I've written to Matt for suspensions, breaking down the situations. I believe I gave you copies of all of those.
Why did you give them to Matt instead of Stacy?
Because Matt was the one that came and picked up the children most of all the time.
Ms. Abarca, this was your best friend's children.
Right.
Are you telling me that you didn't get on the phone in the evening after each of these instances and say to Stacy, listen, Stacy, we really have to talk about the girls.
Absolutely.
I'm having trouble with the girls.
Yes.
And what did Stacy tell you?
That she was in full agreement with everything I had. They knew Lexi was having aggression problems. She was getting in trouble at school almost, and they knew that it was something that they needed to work with.
So that's what, just a second, so that's what your best friend told you?
Right.
So what did she do from the time you started to tell her about the problems with the girls and the time that he finally removed the children from your daycare? What had your friend Stacy done?
Lexi would get in trouble for various different instances. She would go home and be grounded, that kind of thing.
I'm asking you whether her mother ever took her to a therapy session, whether took her to a counselor.
She tried
give me
to.
a yes or a no.
Matt refused to let her go to counseling.
Just a second. Just give me a yes or a no.
Well, it's kind of a gray area because she wanted to take him to counseling and Matt refused.
You should never have cared for these children. Never in a million years should you have been involved with these 2 children with the attitude that you have towards him. In any event, you called the state and reported what you considered his aggressive moves toward you.
That's correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
He had every right to do that.
Exactly.
He did it on April 4th, 3.5 days afterwards, and after he saw Stacy at court filing papers. That's when he went down.
Just a second. Are you asking me a question?
No, they're not.
Are you asking me a question?
They're open on Friday.
You too. You should never have cared for these children.
I agree. I've definitely
I never
learned my
have gotten
lesson.
him involved in taking your complaint outside to him? Complaint that just happened to have been made at the same exact time that you had just had a telephone altercation with him about payment. Sit down. I'm not aggrieved at all by Mr. Finch's conduct in reporting your husband's conduct to the state and letting them come out and take a look at what's going on in your house, because based upon what you told me, there is inadequate supervision of children.
They didn't.
I'm speaking in your home, based upon what you just told me. What really burns me is your motivation for calling Child Protective Services about this father. That's what really burns me, because it was clear to me from reading the timeline in this, your motivation. You chose not to report the problems with the child generally. You chose to identify Mr. Finch as the possible perpetrator of a problem.
That's not, I told them the entire situation.
You want to tell you something, Miss Albaka? I don't believe you. And the reason I don't believe you is Stacy still your best friend?
Stacy and I are still friends. Yes.
That's why I don't believe you, because you would not have called Child Protective Services on your best friend. There is a difference between him calling the state, and the worst thing that can happen to you is you could be investigated and they might not give you a license to care for children in your house. And you calling Child Protective Services and by innuendo suggesting something inappropriate's going on. It was very subtle. And I've seen and heard over the course of 35 years that subtle innuendo that suggests that a father is in some way inappropriately touching his children, which causes all kinds of red lights to go on with Child Protective Services. And your motivations were just that, judgment on the counterclaim for $5,000. That's all.
Party's our excuse, you may step out.
Daniel Hanoyan says former friend Kaylin Cole owes for a loan to get her car out of impound.
Who is this?
This is my mother, Your Honor.
How old are you?
22.
And you, sir?
35.
You work in the same place of business?
At one time we did, yeah.
And I gather from reading your complaint, sir, that despite the fact that this young lady is much too young for you, you had a little crush on her.
A little bit, yeah. At one time, and I found out her age.
And you needed some money because your car was in impound. How come you asked the plaintiff for a loan?
Well, I was at work one night and I was frustrated because my car was impounded and he had asked me what was wrong. And I told him...
What was your car doing impounded?
I'm not sure. I think it was a charge. I was arrested and my car was impounded.
What do you mean you're not sure? You think my car was arrested? I was arrested, my car was impounded. What kind of ridiculousness is that? I asked you a question. What was your car doing in impound?
I had been arrested.
There you go. For what?
They thought that my car was stolen, but it wasn't, in fact, and they impounded my car.
Who were you driving with?
A friend.
Male or female?
Male.
Was he arrested too?
No.
Just you?
Yes.
Who was driving?
I was.
How old is your friend?
I think he is 22.
So they found out that your car wasn't stolen?
Yes.
How long was the car in impound?
14 days.
You mean it took the police department 14 days to figure out that it wasn't stolen?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you speeding?
No. A cop had just saw me down the road and pulled me over.
How many children do you have? You have to think about that?
Two by birth, 3. I have a stepson also. She's my oldest.
Is the younger one smarter?
Yes.
All right, so Mr. Hanoyan gave you money to get your car out of impound, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, Mr. Hanoyan, now that I've sort of kneaded this case a little bit, I don't like slippery, you agreed to loan her the money.
Yes, I did.
And in exchange, she would allow you to have possession of the car. You didn't have the car at the time for 2 months, and within that 2-month period of time, she would return to you the $535, and you would give her back a car. That was your agreement.
That was the agreement.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you give her the money?
On May 27th.
And when did she let you take the car?
On the same day, well, she drove it at first, but she eventually gave me the car.
And how long did you keep the car?
About 2.5 weeks.
What happened?
Well, one night she asked to borrow it.
What did she say?
She said, I need to go with my friends. She was always with this one crony girlfriend that she'd go and they'd go do an errand. She didn't say where or whatever, but then she came back. She was way late, and I was worried about she was going to take the car. I was trusting her the whole time. I was trusting her. She did bring back the original time. The second time she borrowed the car, she said she was going to pick up her mom from the Greyhound bus depot. Never saw her again after that. Never called, never called. I tried to reach her, and she just denied my calls and cussed me out and stuff like that.
Now, Miss Cole, you say you took the car back because?
I took the car back because Mr. Hanoyan had come over. He would come over like once or twice a week to show me the car, and he had, in fact, in the contract said that he would fix the car, any damages, or keep up the oil, keep gas in it, tune up.
Which I did.
All kinds. Shh. And every time he would come over, there, in fact, he hadn't gotten an oil change. I told him 3 times to get an oil change. Every time he came over.
You only had the car for a week?
No, he had the car for about a month.
No, that's a lie.
I took the car back about 2 weeks before the end of the contract.
How much money had you paid him?
I paid him about, I'd given him like $20 here, $40 there every time he would come over.
Miss
Probably
Cole,
about half.
Miss Cole, listen to me.
Yes.
You paid him nothing.
That's right.
Because if you had paid him something, you would have said so in your answer. So you paid him nothing.
No, I paid him like $20 here, $40 there every time he came over.
That's what you just said to me. I just told you you were a liar. Because in your answer, big long story, nowhere did it say you gave him any money. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you didn't like the way he was taking care of your car, you had every right to take it back. You still owe him the $535.
He did, in fact, breach his contract. He had told me that he had a driver's license. I actually have a copy.
What does that have to do? Listen to me. Listen to me. You did say, listen to me, madam, mother, the younger one is smarter, right?
Yes.
If you choose to take the car back because he did not have a driver's license, he wasn't taking good care of it, that's fine. You still owe him the money.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Oh, I understand completely.
Did you try to explain it to her?
Yeah, I tried to explain it to her, but I was never clear on the entire situation. And
now you're clear.
Well, Dan
he had
was
the car.
calling me.
He had the car. Yeah. The car was a mere perk for him. He was to keep the car, but she was to pay him. Keep the car for that 2 months. I was a thank you.
But
thank
he was calling me for the money way from the very beginning.
Well, because listen to me. He shouldn't have called you.
No.
Shouldn't have called you. Shouldn't have bothered you. But I want you to understand the agreement that your daughter had, because she's got this vacant look between her ears that frightens me. The car loan was a perk. Allowing him to use the car merely said, thank you for loaning me this money. I will pay you back. The fact that you took the car back because you didn't like the way he was taking care of them, that you don't have to pay him. Oh, I have to go now. Listen to me. If you hang around with babies, that's what's going to happen.
You're right.
She's a baby, not a very smart one. I don't know about you. Doesn't sound like you're very clever either. You get involved with somebody who's 22 years old. Yeah. 22 years old at work doesn't sound too smart.
I made a mistake, that's for sure.
Well, it was a big mistake. Meanwhile, you're entitled to your $535 judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you, Judy.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
25-year-old Kendra Weber is suing her former roommates, 22-year-old Andrea Gonzalez and her boyfriend, Kyle Evans, for the return of her security deposit and renter's insurance.
Miss Gonzalez, how long were you and Miss Weber friends before you decided to room together?
About 3 years.
When did you sign this lease, Miss Weber?
On November 8th, 2004.
And how many people signed the lease?
Just us two, Andrea and I.
And what was your agreement?
We were to split all of the bills and rent 50-50 two ways.
And this must be Kyle.
That's correct.
Who is Kyle?
Kyle is my boyfriend.
Kyle didn't sign the lease.
No, he did not.
You moved out.
Yes, that's correct.
It is your claim that you moved out because things were made totally untenable with the apartment and you wanted to move in with your boyfriend.
This is correct.
And you want some of your security deposit back and some renter's insurance.
That's correct.
Several $100s. And Ms. Gonzalez and Mr. Evans say that you're not entitled to it. You moved out and you knew that you were going to forfeit any monies that you put into the apartment. Did you move in November of 2004?
Yes.
When did you move out?
April 30th.
And you had paid your rent up until that time?
Yes, I had.
And for my own information, when did Kyle move in?
It was just about a week or two after we moved in, so still in November of 2004.
And what was the rent on the apartment?
$12.75 for the first 6 months, and after that, $13.75.
And how much were you paying?
The first month I paid half, and then after he moved in, we split it 3 ways, $4.25 apiece.
And how much security deposit did you put in, Kyle?
I didn't put any in.
Why?
I wasn't on the lease.
Well, you were living there.
For the majority.
So why didn't you pay security deposit?
Because the security deposit was worked out between the defendant and plaintiff.
Are you still living there?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
How much security deposit did you put in now?
Nothing.
Nothing. Well, now you're going to put in her security deposit, Kyle. Do you understand?
Yes.
Good. So you're going to give her $285, and then when you move out, if you keep the place nice and clean, you're going to get your $285 back. Doesn't that sound fair to you?
Yes.
Perfect. See how easy this is? Now let's deal with the renter's insurance. Did you pay the renter's insurance?
I paid half of it, yes.
You paid half. How much did you pay, Kyle?
None.
Why not, Kyle?
Because I wasn't officially living there. I was in
What do you mean
between.
you're not officially living there? You were living there, Kyle, because you were paying a third of the rent after 1 month of them signing the lease. You were officially living there. You're not a moron, are you? You wouldn't pay rent in an apartment where you weren't living, would you?
No, I was helping my girlfriend out.
Well, where else were you paying rent, Kyle?
Nowhere else, but I was also with my mom.
You weren't paying any rent to your mom?
No.
He was not living with his mom.
Just a second. Of course he wasn't living with his mom. He thinks because I'm older than he is, I'm stupid. You think all old people are stupid?
No.
Very good. So, you wouldn't pay rent for a place where you weren't living. What do you do for a living?
Loan setup. I work in the mortgage industry.
And how do you get to work every day?
I drive.
A what?
A car.
In whose name is the car?
That would be in my mom's and my name.
Is it in your mom's name because you're too young to have a car in your name?
No, it's just I needed a cosigner on the car.
Oh, but your mom doesn't drive in the car.
Not usually, no.
It's your car.
For the most part, yes.
And how far does your mom live away from you?
I'd say about 15 miles.
So how long does it take you to drive when you go visit her?
10 minutes.
So she doesn't come on the weekends to take your car, does she?
No, but I visit her on the weekends.
You do?
Yes.
And the rest of the time you live where?
I live most of the time over there. There are nights where I do go over there.
What a moron. All right, listen to me, Kyle. You're going to give Miss Weber $313. $285 of that represents her security deposit, which you have now taken over. Do you understand? When you're neat and clean and tidy and you and your girlfriend decide to move out, you'll get the $285 back. Doesn't that sound fair to you?
There was also damage
I'm
done.
speaking. Does that sound fair to you?
Yes.
Then you have renter's insurance. Now, renter's insurance covers any property that may be in the apartment. How much property does she have in the apartment?
At that time or right now?
Now!
None.
How much property do you have in the apartment?
A good amount, I believe.
Good. Then the renter's insurance is going to help you out. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $313. It's been delightful chatting with you. Thank you.
Parties are excused.
Corey and Tammy Shanks say Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, ran his Dodge truck into a mailbox. Melissa is countersuing for the return of furniture.
Mr. Shanks, this lady is your former wife, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you are now back together and trying to reconcile.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Blankenship was your girlfriend
Yes, ma'am.
for a brief period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the complaint, although the complaint is written by your wife, it really has to do with you. So we're going to find out exactly what it's all about. You claim that Miss Blankenship damaged a truck. It was a truck that belonged to you. She hit a mailbox or something with it, is that right?
Yes.
And you want her to pay for the damages to that truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Blankenship says that she did, in fact, have an accident with the truck, hit the mailbox, there was some minor damage, she told you about it, and at some point you told her to forget about it, because you had moved her in with her children or child?
My child.
With her child into another house that you owned, and she relocated because you were together. Then when you decided to go back to your wife, she was told that she had to vacate the property immediately.
She had exactly a week and a half to clear the vacant.
And the suggestion is because you told her she had to get out of the house within a week, you told her to just forget about the damage to the truck. When were you divorced, Mr. Shanks?
I was getting ready to go through the divorce in June 2005.
When did you meet Miss Blankenship?
About the same time, about June.
Okay. And when did you purchase the second house?
Obtained the house around June, July, in between there.
And when did Miss Blankenship move into the house with her daughter?
When the house closed, and it was in August.
And that was at your suggestion?
Well...
You were together?
Yes, but, Your Honor, it was more or less where she wanted to more or less move in. You know, she asked me to move in, and the stipulation was she was supposed to obtain the home, take care of everything while I was gone, since I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and she was going to start up a daycare with herself and her witness.
So what you're saying is she moved into the house, but she was supposed to pay all the bills in the house?
No.
From the daycare?
No, it was more or less like she wanted to start up the daycare.
Well, what did that have to do with you, Mr. Shanks?
Well, really, it doesn't, Your Honor.
Well, so then I'm not interested in it if it doesn't have anything to do with you. Okay, so she moved into the house, and when you weren't on the road in your truck, where did you stay?
I only stayed in that home maybe one night.
With her?
Yes, one night.
And you shared a room?
Yes.
Before she moved into the house, where was she living?
She was living in an apartment complex.
How many nights did you spend there?
Maybe 2 at the most, ma'am.
And when you stayed there, did you share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you purchased this new house, was it the idea that you would be living there as a family when you weren't on the road?
No, ma'am.
What was the idea of the new house, sir?
The idea of the new home is I wanted to move away from my old home state where I used to live at, and I just wanted to start over myself. I mean, the only reason I let Miss Blankenship move in was the idea of her wanting to start up the daycare.
Mr. Shanks, you're having second thoughts about this, sir, because of the lady standing next to you. But your conversation to me doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't make sense that you bought another house in another area and Miss Blankenship was moving in there to start a daycare center. That doesn't make sense, sir. I haven't even asked her anything. So don't try to pull my leg. I don't like it. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had second thoughts about Miss Blankenship and your relationship and you wanted to go home to your wife, that's fine. But don't lie. I don't like it. Now let's get back to the truck. At the time that Miss Blankenship damaged the truck, she called you. Where were you?
I was out on the road.
And what did she tell you?
That the truck was hit by the mailbox.
No, she didn't say that at all. Don't be a wise guy. What did she tell you?
She told me she hit the mailbox.
That she hit the mailbox, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she apologize?
Yes, she was very apologetic to it, yes.
Now, at that time, had you gone back to your wife yet?
No.
Did you tell her that you were thinking about going back to your wife?
No.
Had you told her that she had to move her property out?
I told her, when I told her to move out the property, and this is going to bring up the daycare again, that she wasn't getting the daycare going and the home wasn't being taken care of.
When she used your truck, what was she using it for?
In the moving process, I think.
So you were told her to move, in or out?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was in, ma'am.
Were you moving in or out when you were using the truck?
Actually, when I wrecked the truck, he was in town. He asked me to go get jumper cables, I think it was, so he could get his truck jumped because the batteries went dead. So he was in town.
Where was he in town?
He was over by the apartment complex that I used to live at, and I had already moved into the home.
Okay. So that was sometime in August?
Yes.
Now, after you had this problem with the truck, you went into a mailbox.
Right.
Did he ever spend the night with you in the house again?
Yes.
How many times?
I think he was there one more night, and then he left.
After the damage to the truck?
After the damage to the pickup.
Now, did you see the damage to the truck, Mr. Shanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the truck when you saw it?
I'm pretty sure it was at the apartment complex, ma'am.
Apartment complex or the house?
I think it was at the apartment complex.
So it was drivable?
Yes, it was drivable.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding your seeing it at the apartment complex, sir.
I was,
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
I I would think I was getting ready to leave, but I can't recollect it.
What?
In the truck, in my semi.
You mean getting ready to leave her apartment?
Yes, the semi was parked at the apartment.
At her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you say to Miss Blankenship, sir, when she told you that she had had this accident with the truck, and you saw the truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
I told her, I said it needs to be replaced, you need to get it fixed, and it needs to be done. I mean, I was really upset about my truck being wrecked.
Well, it wasn't wrecked, sir, because you said you saw it at the apartment complex. So it wasn't wrecked, it was drivable.
Yes, it was drivable, but the way them Dodges are set up and everything, they've got plastic and little sheet metal and all that stuff on them anymore, and just hitting the mailbox did do a lot of damage to the front of that truck. I mean, it's very noticeable.
You want to show me a picture of it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There's also pictures of the mailbox post and at the house where the mailbox sits.
Truck isn't wrecked, sir. It's got a little damage on it. There's some bumper scratches. Big deal. You see what your problem is, sir? First you moved her out of her apartment with her child into a house that you had purchased. And the plan was for you to live there when you weren't on the road. That was the plan. I mean, that's clear. There's no question about that. Then you decide to get back with your wife. And your wife is irritated that the truck is damaged. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. What are you mad at her for?
I'm not, ma'am.
Well, you shouldn't be. He's the one who disrupted her life, moved her out of her apartment into a house, and then told her she had to move because he was going back with you. Don't you see who the villain here is? It's not her. Oh, you get it? Did I have to explain that to you? No. So why are you here? Over a couple of $100 damage to a truck? He ruined her life. That's not her fault. That's probably yours, too. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe her when she says that the reason she was moving your truck was because you asked her to go get jumper cables with your truck.
I can't remember that far back, Your Honor.
Well, if you can't remember, she does.
I know the truck was driven without my permission.
That's not true. If you asked her to go get jumper cables, she used your truck. She was living in your house. You were sleeping with her. You had an intimate relationship. Get over it. You made a mistake. And grow up. Now, what stuff did she leave behind in the house?
I've got pictures of the furniture.
And where is the furniture that she left behind?
Is that the...
Take your hands out of your pockets.
It's at the address of the home in St. Charles.
Where do you want him to deliver your property? He's going to deliver it. He caused the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To Mary's apartment. Miss Kelly's apartment.
All of her property goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it gets there. It's your responsibility. You had a change of heart, sir. You have to behave like a grown-up. Just because you act irresponsibly most of the time with the women in your life doesn't mean you're going to act irresponsibly here. I mean, I read the papers. You relocated this lady and her child with a promise that you were going to have a life together, that she was going to start a business in the home. And because you had a change of heart, you told her, sorry, you have to move. Now, you moved once, now you have to move again. Where did you move to? Back to the complex?
No, I had lost my apartment because of him promising we were going to have a life together.
Where are you living now?
I relocated closer to home, closer to my parents.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
My daughter stayed with a friend because I did not want to be a burden on anyone else. I let my daughter stay so she would not be without.
How old is she?
She's 11. She was 10 at the time.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
She gets all of her property back. Make sure that that happens, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the truck yourself. It's the least you could do. And tell your wife to get over it. You got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Rachel Rhodes is suing her ex-boyfriend, Eric Nelson, for the return of payments and repair costs for a vehicle he financed. Eric says the car was repossessed because Rachel missed payments.
Miss Rose, Mr. Nelson is former boyfriend of yours.
Correct.
And he financed a car. He was responsible for the payments on the car, but it was your car.
Correct.
The agreement was you were to make the payments on the car. When the car was paid off, it would be yours.
Correct.
Well, what happened is that you missed some payments on the car. Couple. 2, maybe 3. And the car was repossessed by the company. Is that right so far?
So far, I made a payment. I had placed it on the Dropbox.
I don't want to hear that you made the payment, you placed it on the Dropbox, they didn't cash the check, but then you missed 2 more payments. You missed payments, correct?
Yes.
And the car was repossessed. You called up the company, and the company said, well, if you make up all the payments that you missed, we'll give you the car back. You were prepared to make up the payments, right?
Correct.
But Mr. Nelson says, I'm not going to sign off on you getting the car back because I don't trust that you're going to continue to make the payments on the car. Let them take back the car. I'll make up the missed payments, and I just want this off my record so I don't have to worry about it anymore. So you're suing him for not making it easy for you to get the car back from the company. That's your lawsuit?
Yes.
Lawsuit, Ms. Rhodes.
Well, Your Honor, I have the paperwork pertaining to the money order that I had purchased and I had put in the Dropbox. After the 29th of December, I had called and checked the status of the money order. The money order had not been cashed.
Ms. Rhodes, you don't seem to get me. After you had this alleged mishap with a money order that you allegedly put in a Dropbox at the car company, which they didn't cash, you then missed 2 more payments.
Ma'am, the payment was for, the money order was for $250.
You then missed, according to your own statement, 2 more payments because you had trouble. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct.
Well, that's what you wrote here. That's what you wrote here. How many more months of payments did you miss?
I only missed, to my knowledge, I missed 3 payments, which is a month worth of payments.
You missed 3 payments, and the car was repossessed.
That's correct, but as far as I know, I thought the payments were current.
Well, they weren't current, and you have no cause of action against Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nelson doesn't have to make it easy for you to get your car back from the company. That's not his responsibility. Your responsibility is to see to it that the payments are made on time, and they are made to the right place, and to check and see if they were cashed, and to check and see that his credit is not at risk. That's your job. He was being very nice to you, but things transpired, which we'll get to in a moment, because you have a counterclaim that suggested to him that you were not particularly a trustworthy person. So he wasn't going to make it easy for you to get the car back, and he has no legal obligation to do that. And this is, of course, a court of law. And in a court of law, he is not under legal obligation to get you your car back from the finance company after you missed, I don't care if you missed 1 payment. According to you, you missed 3.
Well, can I say this?
Sure.
If I wasn't such a trustworthy person, I was able to pay the money to get the car back, but he didn't want to do that. But he told me that I can give him the $500 so that I can drive another car of his that he had parked.
Well, let me tell you why he thinks that you're not particularly a trustworthy person. He has a counterclaim for the missed payments that he had to make up.
Yes, ma'am.
But more importantly, his counterclaim asks for money for a paternity test because you had a child, she believed to be his child. He put his name on the child's birth certificate. He paid child support. I don't know whether he saw the child regularly.
He paid child support? No.
Did you pay any child support, sir, to her?
No, ma'am, I haven't paid to her because I have a lawyer at this time.
Were you living together when the child was born?
No, ma'am.
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And you believed her?
Yes, ma'am.
And you took a paternity test?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours?
0% probability.
That's why he doesn't trust you.
Okay. Can I say this? Yes. He took a paternity test. I didn't know nothing about the paternity test. I wasn't there when he swabbed my daughter's mouth. I don't know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have, but I think you certainly have to go to court to find out. Have you been to court yet?
Yes, we've been to court.
And what happened when you went to court?
We went to court, and by him signing the paternity affidavit, they stated that if it is his child or if it's not his child, that he needs to pay
child support. So the court where you are said Mr. Nelson is out of luck because he was told that the child was his by you, and because he signed the affidavit of paternity based on what you told him, he's going to pay child support whether the child is his or not. That's what you just told me.
I mean, that's what they said.
That's what you just told me that he was told.
Yes.
That wouldn't make me happy.
No.
That wouldn't make me believe that you are a particularly trustworthy person. This was not a court-ordered blood test, is that right?
No, ma'am.
You took the child yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you have to proceed through the courts. You hired an attorney. That's the first smart thing that you did.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. And do you have a court date?
Yes, I do.
When?
My lawyer has gotten us a court date to go back to court on May the 15th, so we could rescind the paternity affidavit that was already filed against
Fine.
me.
Well, at that point, Ms. Rhodes, the baby, as well as you, will be sent to a laboratory to take a paternity test, and at that time, with all three parties present, the court will at least be satisfied that the test is done properly. Ms. Rhodes at this point knows that she's on notice, that if there is a possibility that you are not the biological father of this child, that is not a good thing. So I suggest you start searching in memory to figure out if there's any possibility that he's not the father.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Good. So you have no cause of action against him for the car. He doesn't have to assist you in getting the car back from the finance company. If you can convince them to give the car to you, that's super. And if you can't, you shouldn't have missed the payments which caused it to be repossessed. Now, the defendant's counterclaim is granted in the amount of $275, not for the paternity test, sir, because the paternity test was not an authorized test and it was not done by the courts. If you had been forced to pay for a paternity test through the courts, I might have entertained your application if it was done with all three parties present. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.